All ready? Is everybody ready? Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the County Commission meeting. We're in the county chambers here. It's 5:01. Call this meeting to order. If you would all please rise with me and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, as we always do, I'll ask you to join me in a moment of silence and take that moment, that 30 seconds or whatever, to think about how lucky we are to live here in Flagler County. Also think about our men and women in the armed forces stationed around the world. And last but not least, our first responders, our sheriff and his people, and our fire chief and his people, and then all the EMT guys that save us every day. So, moment of silence. Thank you. Our agenda will stand. We don't have any modifications to it. We do have a couple announcements, though. Beginning on March 27th, Varn Park will be closed for 3 months as we undertake 2 emergency sand operations, the first in Painters Hill and Beverly Beach, and the second north through the park into Hammock Dunes Homeowners Association property. We have on our advisory board and councils, we have some vacancies. If you can check and see which vacancies are available at our website, flaglercounty.gov. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, May 1st at 9 o'clock here in these chambers. We have some proclamations today to read. We have 4 of them. The first one is Crime Victims' Rights Week, and I've asked Leanne to do that.
This is a proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming April 23rd through 29th, 2023 as Crime Victims' Rights Week in Flagler County. Survivor voices elevate, engage, and affect change, whereas the term victim is more than just a label and has a legal standing and protections that go along with it. And whereas Crime Victims' Rights Acts passed here in Florida and at the federal level guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate and use their voice in the criminal justice process. And whereas victim service providers, advocates, law enforcement officers, attorneys, and other allied professionals can help survivors find their justice by enforcing these rights. And whereas the right to provide an impact statement ensures that victims' voices are considered in court during the sentencing and when applicable restitution processes. And whereas including and elevating the voices of survivors makes certain that they are heard and seen and creates a path to forging and sustaining community trust. And whereas engaging survivors creates responses and services that are credible, meaningful, and centered on individual needs. And whereas survivors' lived experiences can serve as a catalyst for implementing innovative programs, shifting existing programs in new directions, and changing policies or practices that prevent survivors from accessing services or pursuing justice. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to listening to crime survivors in every space where decisions are made that could impact them. And whereas Flagler County Advocates Alliance and the Victim Service Coalition of the 7th Judicial Circuit are hereby dedicated to amplifying the voices of survivors and creating an environment where survivors have the confidence that they will be heard, believed, and supported. Now, therefore, the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the week of April 23rd through 29th, 2023 as Crime Victims' Rights Week in Flagler County, and we reaffirm our commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year in expressing our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. This is adopted the 17th day of April 2023, signed by our clerk of court and our chair of the commission.
Anybody from the Family Life Center here to accept that? Oh,
A lot of folks.
I have a few. What?
Gentlemen, I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a proclamation of the Flagler County Board proclaiming April 23rd, 29th, 2023 as Crime Victims' Right Week in Flagler County.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this Crime Victims' Rights Week citation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. We have your proclamation right here.
Good evening. A few words. I'm Candace Wilkie, Domestic Violence Services Coordinator with the Family Life Center. I know our name's up there, but as you can see, we don't do this work alone. Flagler County Sheriff's Office, Flagler Beach Police Department, BACA are all here to stand and let you know that we're all here to support services for victims of crime. I know BACA likes to have a few words, so if you wouldn't mind giving them the mic for a minute.
In cases like this, what I normally do is read the mission statement. It's very concise as to what we do. Bikers Against Child Abuse, BACA, exists with the intent to create a safer environment for abused children. We exist as a body of bikers to empower children to not feel afraid of the world in which they live. We stand ready to lend support to our wounded friends by involving them with an established, united organization. We work in conjunction with local and state officials who are already in place to protect children. We desire to send a clear message to all involved with the abused child that this child is part of our organization and that we are prepared to lend our physical and emotional support to them by affiliation and our physical presence. We stand at the ready to shield these children from further abuse. We do not condone the use of violence or physical force in any manner. However, if circumstances arise such that we're the only obstacle preventing a child from further abuse, we stand ready to be that obstacle. We go to court with the children. We go to therapy with them if they want. If the perp's riding by their house or they have a problem at the school bus stop, we're there. They can call 2 of our members 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we show up.
Thank you.
That's what we do.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Sheriff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Rick Staley, Sheriff. I just want to say in this community, as you can see, we go from the banker gang supporting victims and kids, I say that affectionately, to victim services, and everybody works together. And I think that's what makes Flagler County unique. So thank you for doing this and recognizing the importance of always remembering and supporting the victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you all. Did you want a picture of all of us all together? Or? Okay, come on down. We have a photographer, I think. Crowd in. Pretend like you like each other. One more. Not so fast. Thank you all for what you do. Thank you very much.
Not easy.
Thanks for being here.
The next proclamation is Volunteer Week for Meals on Wheels. Don, you got that one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming April 16th through the 22nd 2023 as Volunteer Week for Meals on Wheels in Flagler County. Whereas National Volunteer Week is an opportunity to recognize, honor, and celebrate the countless individuals who selflessly invest in the lives of others. And whereas Meals on Wheels of Flagler County, Florida, delivers meals weekly to those who are homebound and unable to prepare food for themselves. And whereas volunteer drivers for Meals on Wheels of Flagler County are the integral support to the program, delivering nutritious meals, caring concern, and attention to the welfare of seniors in our community, and enhancing overall quality of life. And whereas volunteering one's time, talents, and resources strengthens communities, improves social problems, and enhances the quality of life of others. It is essential for our senior community that the tradition of volunteering, giving, and sharing will persevere in Flagler County. And whereas each year a special week is designated in our nation for the dual purpose of recognizing those who give of themselves tirelessly and selflessly while serving others, and of encouraging all citizens to become involved in Volunteer Week. And it is fitting at this time that we say thank you to all individuals, groups, and businesses who have given time, energy, and resources to their communities through volunteering. Whereas the Meals on Wheels Association of America established National March for Meals campaign to recognize the historic week, the importance of Older Americans Act senior nutrition programs, and raise awareness about senior hunger in America. And whereas Flagler County wishes to call upon the citizens of Flagler County to volunteer service and/or make a donation to support the local Meals on Wheels effort. Whereas older persons are diverse, respected citizens who continue to contribute to our nation's social and economic well-being as they live longer, healthier, and more productive lives, many even starting second careers. And whereas as America grows older, each community must strive to understand and address the evolving challenges and the needs of our older citizens and for the people who care for them. And whereas the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead require us to think differently about health and long-term care and work together to ensure that older Americans can age strong, long, and with dignity. Now therefore be proclaimed that the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim April the 16th through the 22nd, 2023 as Volunteer Week for Meals on Wheels in Flagler County, and call upon the residents of Flagler County to join Flagler County Senior Services in observing the week with appropriate activities, programs, and ceremonies promoting the spirit of volunteerism in our community. Adopted this 17th day of April, 2023, attested to by Tom Bexley, Clerk of the Circuit Court, and signed by our Chair of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners, Greg Hansen.
Thank you, Don. Is Joe Hegedus here? Meals on Wheels are here. Got the right shirt on.
Mr. Chair, I move adoption of the proclamation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the proclamation for Volunteer Week for Meals on Wheels. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioners. We appreciate the opportunity to be up here. My name is Joe Hegedus, Director of Health and Human Services. I'm actually going to defer to Winnie, who's our Program Manager for Senior Services, who can speak to the incredible work that all these wonderful folks do for us week in and week out. We do hope to put up the overhead projector, if that's possible, to show up. Oh, perfect. It's up and good to go. All right. Well, let me introduce Winnie Costello, our Program Manager. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Winnie Costello. I'm the Senior Service Program Manager, and I'm here today to show appreciation for all of our volunteers, not only for our Meals on Wheels, but also our commodity. So during COVID, we delivered every single day food, and our volunteers stayed with us. 2 of those 5 days, we delivered 253 meals every Thursday and Friday for over a year to the seniors in our community. Our volunteers stayed with us. When gas prices went up to almost $5 a gallon, our volunteers stayed with us. We don't pay them, we don't give them a stipend, we don't give them a gas card, we don't reimburse them for gas. They do this all on their own. So if the county had to pay for this service to deliver the meals, just time alone would cost them $25,000. And it's amazing what they do. And they make friends with all of our seniors as well. We also have the commodity food program that we do once a month, where a lot of the volunteers also do that as well. So that's once a month. We have an agreement with the Bread of the Mighty Food Bank. The third Friday of every month, the commodity food that we give out comes out to $63.47 additional that the county is saving. So I really wanted to highlight what our volunteers do for the county and show my appreciation for everything they do. A lot of our volunteers have been with us for years. One more thing before if anybody else wants to speak. So 4 years ago, we did a video, and we went to the volunteers. We did one volunteer per volunteer, one client per volunteer, and asked them, I can need my glasses now, what does the volunteer mean to you? Now, it's a 7-minute video, and I knew I didn't have time to show the whole video here, so I just wrote down some things. So, gratitude, smiling faces, grateful, pleasant, thankful, makes me feel like I'm part of a family. I don't like many people, but I like my volunteer. He's an angel, so positive, helpful, smiling in the morning, kindness, people who give to others, friendly, always helpful, blessed, takes times to visit me, friendly face, comforting thoughts, glad to see somebody around, and then it's Tuesday. Anybody like to speak? I'm on, Ron. Oh, one more thing, sorry. These are 2 of our volunteers we lost, so just wanted to put this up.
Well, my name's Ron Moyer. I do commodity foods once a month and Meals on Wheels on Tuesday. And I thought, I was really going to enjoy doing this. And then I get to see these people every week, and you would be shocked. I might be the only person they see in a month. And they're old. I mean, we're old, but they're older. They're older, and they really need our help. And the people at the senior services, they do a great job of volunteering and putting all this together. I don't know who pays for it. I mean, we're giving our time, and we love doing it, but it is depressing when you leave these people
I understand.
knowing you won't see them again, and they're not going to see anybody else again for another week or maybe another month. And it is sad, but it's a great service that we're providing for them. And I know they're thrilled to have us.
Right.
That's all
Thank
I
you
got.
for speaking. Appreciate that.
Good afternoon. I'm J.W. Gilmore. I've been delivering Meals on Wheels so long that Winnie wants to get me a new shirt. She said,
It's faded. I can
Yeah.
see that.
My mom got Meals on Wheels when she was in New York, and then I shipped her down here and got her into a nice nursing home until it was that time, and I just thought about giving back. And I've been doing it ever since, and anything Winnie needs, she calls me up and says, can your band play for the seniors down at the Flagler thing? Lady's 100 years old. We're down there playing. The walkers are in the corner. The air canisters in the corner. They're swinging on the floor, for lunch. So, and when the route changes and then somebody's passed away, it's kind of sad. So I miss my clients,
Yeah.
and I'm
Well,
just
thank you.
glad to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about giving these people a round of applause for what they do? Thank you all. Thank you very much.
I love the graphic on the shirt. It's
Does
great.
that mean you dodge alligators? Is that what that's for?
So that actually came from Patrick, who passed away recently. He showed up one day with a Meals on Wheels shirt, but instead of an alligator chasing somebody on a bicycle, it was a bear because he was from Maine. And he's an advocate bicyclist. So another one of our volunteers, Andy, came up with the idea to have the alligator chasing.
Great.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you all very much.
Did we get no picture?
There's too many people, I think. Next up is National Volunteer Month, and I've asked our Vice Chair, Andy, to read that.
Thank you. This is a proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming April 2023 as Volunteer Month in Flagler County. Whereas April is Florida Volunteer Month, established as the official time to recognize and celebrate the efforts of volunteers at the local, state, and national levels. Whereas volunteerism strengthens communities, improves social problems, and enhances the overall quality of life for all citizens, including children, seniors, those who are disabled, the impoverished, the imprisoned, the homeless, the physically or mentally ill, or those otherwise in need of assistance. And whereas volunteering changes the lives of volunteers in a positive way, increasing self-confidence, self-esteem, and physical well-being, offering the chance to meet new friends and associates, and providing opportunities to learn new skills and abilities. And whereas volunteerism is proven to have a positive influence on businesses that are socially responsible, increasing employee morale, loyalty, and teamwork, and building goodwill toward the company. And whereas nonprofits, charities, community, faith-based groups, and national service partnerships in Flagler County have joined together with state and local governments in celebration and praise of volunteers who have given tirelessly and selflessly to the service of others. Now therefore, the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Volunteer Month in Flagler County and call upon residents of Flagler County to join Flagler County Volunteer Services in observing the month with appropriate activities, programs, and ceremonies promoting the spirit of volunteerism in our community. Adopted this 17th day of April 2023, signed by Tom Bexley, our Clerk of Circuit Court, and our Chair, Greg Hansen.
Thank you. Judy?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve National Volunteer Month, April 2023. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Welcome.
Hi. I'm Susie
Susie,
Gamblin. I'm the Executive Director for Flagler Volunteer Services. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say a few words about the volunteers in our community. That was an excellent example right before us, so it was great following them. But in 2022, we had 1,548 volunteers who reported hours to our agency, and they did 67,569 hours. So based on the independent sector's value of a volunteer hour, that's over a $2 million value to Flagler County. But even on minimum wage, that's almost a $750,000 value. So it's a tremendous value that volunteers bring to the community. This is a much smaller number than what we're used to because of COVID. COVID kind of shut everything down. There was very few volunteers. That group was one group that stayed on. We also had volunteers that assisted at every single COVID vaccine site and testing site from the start to the finish. So starting with Daytona State when they first started, we have volunteers that did medical work as well as parking and traffic control, and clerical work. So we did stay active during COVID, but our numbers are about half of what they were before COVID. And what we're seeing in 2023 is growth. It's going up, up, up. There's a lot of volunteer needs right now, and the volunteer needs are growing every day. Some notable volunteer activities in Flagler County. Flagler County Schools, we had 442 volunteers, which is less than normal because of COVID, but this is the first full year that there will be volunteers in the school district this entire year. Last year, there was a period of time that they did not have any volunteers in the school district. The Flagler Humane Society had 301 volunteers. Habitat for Humanity, 132 volunteers. The Sheriff's Office, 75 volunteers that we have on our rolls. So a lot of volunteers out there doing a variety of things and being very active. Some of the programs that are run by our agency, we have a Reading Pals program that's VPK through 3rd grade. We assist with kids that are struggling with literacy. We had 52 volunteers, 100 students that we are working with currently. Our Blanketeers program is for volunteers who knit and crochet. They knit and crochet handmade items that we give to people facing crisis. We had 37 volunteers that have been actively doing that. Our Giving Store program for children in kindergarten through 5th grade, teaching them the joy of giving during the holiday seasons. It's not about them getting a gift like most other holiday programs, but about them being able to give gifts to their family members. We had 95 volunteers, and we served 320 children in 2022. And then our emergency support services, we had 88 volunteers who helped at the local shelters, with the call center, with sandbag distribution, traffic control, and cleanup efforts. So we had a lot of volunteers active during Hurricane Nicole and Ian. We are always active when there's a disaster in our community. It is a number one priority for our agency that we do provide a lot of volunteer support for Flagler County whenever there's any type of disaster. So that's just a little bit about what volunteers are currently doing. And as I said, we're growing tremendously this year. In 2023, we're seeing tremendous growth from what we saw. It's been a process from COVID and going through all of that, but we are getting back to normal. I suspect that our numbers are going to probably almost double by next year.
Thank you, Susie. It's a remarkable feat what you all do, and it largely goes unnoticed, except for the people who you serve, and
Yes.
and then they're very pleased to meet you.
Yeah.
To have your
Yeah.
volunteers come. Yeah, it's a tremendous what you guys do for the county. It's amazing.
It is amazing what volunteers do. And I've been here for almost 30 years, and I can say over the 30 years that I've been here working with volunteers, I had no clue what volunteers did until I started, and now volunteers do everything. They make this county run, they make this nation run, really they do. You have a small part, yeah. But they do a tremendous amount of work, yes. Yeah. So
Commissioner,
thank you
anything
very
else?
much.
And now you
Thank
have your
you.
own space to handle the growth.
Yes, we do. We just moved our
Got a
offices.
new building, yeah.
Yes, right around the corner over here. So we're right across from Wendy's, and happy to be there, and happy with the new office and being able to serve a lot more people.
Thank you all.
Thank
Do
you.
you want to get a picture?
I would love a picture.
Okay. Thank you all for what you do. Amazing. Thanks. We already did the motion, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is National Library Week, and I've asked Dave Sullivan to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming April 23rd through 29th, 2023 as National Library Week in Flagler County. Whereas libraries provide the opportunity for everyone to pursue their passions and engage in lifelong learning, allowing them to live their best life. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity of access for all. And whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, continually expanding their collections, services, and partnerships. And whereas libraries play a critical role in the economic vitality of communities by providing internet and technology access, literacy skills, and support for job seekers, small businesses, and entrepreneurs. And whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. And whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, providing the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore be proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby proclaim April 23rd to 29th, 2023 as National Library Week, and encourage all residents to visit the library this week and explore what's new at your library and engage with your librarian. There's more to the story. Adopted this 17th day of April 2023. Tom Bexley, Clerk of Circuit Court and Controller, attested and signed by Gregory Hansen, our Chairman. And Holly Albanese is here.
Holly Albanese, our librarian.
Yeah,
Yes.
Holly Albanese, Library Director. Thank you for the proclamation. I have some friends with me, literally. They are friends and volunteers, and just to piggyback on the volunteer, we had our appreciation for our volunteers yesterday. The Friends paid for, we had the Olive Garden catered at the library. So
cool.
we did
Nice.
show our volunteers some appreciation yesterday. And staff and some Board of Trustees did attend as well. So you're going to hear plenty from me because I'm in the presentation. So I'm going to let the president of the Friends speak. Carl?
Okay. But particularly like to thank Sheriff Staley for the second year in a row wearing a green shirt in support of the library. We have 96 volunteers, and we donate, I'm sorry.
Name.
My name's Carl Laundrie. I'm president of the Friends of the Library, and we have executive board members, Mark and they're on our executive board. Haiti's on our executive board, and all these people have donated hours. We raise funds by selling books, and just to be clear, not books from the library, county library, but books that are donated by the citizens, and we sell them. And I've never been able to walk away from a book sale, and we have one coming up April 29th, without buying something. It's great stuff on sale. So, and we raise funds to support the library, all the little special needs and little extra things, just all kinds of things that the library needs, and we support them and we raise funds, and and thousands of volunteer hours. So it's a good thing. Got lots of volunteers that help the county.
And I think we should put a plug in. I think you and I were talking the other day that you could use some more volunteers in the library.
We could, pre-COVID, we had about 180 volunteers, and we are just up to 96 at this point. And it's 6,500 hours of service, and using that independent sector, it's 190,000 back to the county. But when I first started, we had, I don't know how many volunteers, quite a bit, but it was over 20,000 hours of service that was provided. So hopefully we can get back there.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the proclamation for National Library Week.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve April 23rd to 29 as National Library Week. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. In a picture?
Let's go left.
Thank you all.
going.
Thank
Keep
you
it
all
up.
for what you all do. Really.
Thank you, Holly.
What's interesting to me about those 4 proclamations, that it sort of highlights 4 of the 20-odd services that we provide in the county. We do a lot for our people here in the county, and our services are better than just about any county in the state. It's pretty amazing what we get done. Next up, we have presentations, and the first up is Holly Albanese, our library director, National Library Week presentation. Would you excuse me for a minute so I get some water? But you go ahead and start. Go ahead and start. I gotta get some water.
Thank you for allowing me to do this. As I told you last month, this was my favorite time, and the ability to talk about the library, it's my favorite thing to talk about. I just want to mention I do have one staff member in the audience, John. He works over at the Bunnell branch. Unfortunately, I really wanted more staff here tonight, but you can't because our new hours don't lend itself to, them being here after or before 7 o'clock at night, because the hours are 10 to 7 at the main library. So all of them are working, probably listening to us right now. So thank you for that opportunity. So what we're talking about is the library, and we're celebrating National Library Week, which the theme is There's More to the Story. I just want to point out in that picture right there, in the right-hand corner, is the 30% design renderings of the new facility. And briefly, I wanted to tell you, we have a Board of Trustees that was established along with the library back in 1987 per the Municipal Code, Section 25-2. And we have 7 members of the Board of Trustees. You can see their names at the bottom. Our president of the Friends is, president of the Library Board is James Ulsmer. So just to give you some statistics, because I'm a librarian and that's what I do, I want to give you the highlights. We've circulated more than 459,000 collection items. That includes ebooks. And we provided service to over 202,000 people who visited the library in this past year. We also had 500 in-person programs with over 22,000 in attendance at that program. And I already talked about our volunteers, so I think the next thing I'm going to highlight is our passports, because as you know, again, it's something that I'm very proud of, that we started back in 2008. And to date, we've made over $1.1 million, which offsets some tax dollars. We use it for enhancements on the library, and we're using it right now towards the new facility. Last year, they did 2,900 passport applications and more than 3,600 photos. Well, what I will tell you is, and for the whole year last year, we only made 137,000. But as of March, which is 6 months in, we've already made just under the 100,000 mark. So we're trending towards 200,000 for the year. I guess people are traveling. So I like to give you some comparisons. We have something at the library called state recommended minimum standards. They're guidelines or benchmarks. And we had a pre-2015 and then a post-2015 because the standards did change. But I just wanted you to see some of the critical areas of service that we should be meeting, and what we are meeting, what we aren't meeting, and where we are currently, and then where we compare to our surrounding communities. And as you can see, I use Putnam, Volusia, and St. John's, and the ones that are highlighted are the standards that those communities are meeting pre-2015 standards. As you can see, Flagler County is only meeting 1 standard, Putnam's meeting 3, Volusia's meeting 4, and St. John's is meeting 3. So I'd just like to just illustrate for you $11.84 per capita and what that can buy you, because right now that's how we support our library. $11.84 is per year, not per month. So internet, the least expensive internet I could find was $19.95 a month, so you're not going to buy internet. Ebooks, you might buy 1. Membership to Audible, that's $7.95 a month, so you might get 1. Netflix is $9.99 a month, so you might get 1 month. Gas, last time I checked, was $3.49. I think it's gone up a little bit, so you can probably get 3 gallons of gas in the year. And then looking at coffee, because a lot of people like to drink coffee. You can maybe get 6 cups a year, but certainly not Starbucks. So just to give you an illustration as to what $11.84 can buy you. I like to show what the return on investment is by having the public library. So there are more than 61,000 registered borrowers currently. That's 50% of your population uses the library. Circulation right now, we said it was 450,000. And so if you looked at the cost of a paperback, that savings to the community is about $3.6 million. However, our ILS system, which is the software system that we use to check books out to you, calculates how much you save individually and then total by using the library. It has stored in the database how much each item is. When we catalog it, we put in there how much we paid for that item. So every time it gets checked out, it adds that in. So if you look at that number, the annual savings was $7.3 million. And that was just for print materials. That doesn't include the ebooks. We had 103,000 ebook circulations last year, and that adds another 800,000. So it's over $8 million in savings to the community by using the public library. Internet use, same thing. You can look at the 52,000 sessions per year, what the annual cost would be if you paid that $19.95 per month. That's another $1 million in savings. And then if you looked at the entertainment, the classes, workshops that we provide, 500 programs attended by 22,000 people. What is that value to the community? I really don't know what that value would be, but I'm sure it's a lot. So I'd like to share some, I call it my program photo album, but it's just some photos we've taken of programs along the year and people attending those programs and enjoying them. And some of them are in the teen center. Some, you saw the Pause to Read, that's in the teen center. That's our teen advisory board. Some adult programs, we have musical programs. Chef Warren, you can see the cooking class. Carol Abersol came. We have the white table ceremony, Halloween hoopla, baby story time. It became so popular we had to start another class. We had the kitten yoga where 7 kittens were adopted that day. Magic show. Jacksonville Zoo, Touch a Truck with the fire department. And these are some flyers from programs that we've held during the year. So you can see all of the programs that we do. So we had a Spring Fling pet adopt-a-thon, so we partnered with the Flagler Humane Society, and several pets were adopted that day. Wiggles and Giggles, Chess Club, Tween Club, Mad Science, Tabletop Tuesday, Stitches and Crafts, Story Time, Baby Time, Pause to Read, which is popular literacy program where kids read to therapy dogs, creative writing workshops, Halloween hoopla again, anime club, Tween and Teen St. Patty's Day party. We also have 2 of our newest programs, Sensory Story Time, which is for children on the autism spectrum, and Color by Candlelight, and these are 2 new ones. Then looking at the adult programs, we've had some monthly programs and some just annual, but we've had some lunch and learns. Museum of Arts and Sciences has been there. Of course, the white table ceremony, computer classes. We have our book fest coming up, trivia night, Flagler Reads Together, poetry open mic night, Carol Abersol, monthly cooking series, Medicare Basics, and Food for Fines. And of course, there's always more to the story. So looking at the services that we've provided during the year, I want to talk about a couple of new ones. Food for Thought is something that was the brainchild, I would say, of my collaboration of myself and Mike Dixon, who's the General Services Director. We happened to be sitting together, we were talking about creating a free little library, and we were also talking about food pantry and having it half pantry, half books, and he just came up with the idea of food for thought, and it was born that day. General Services built the two, and we've had donations from the public of food and books, and we have two currently, one at Hawk Creek and one at Hidden Trails, and we're hoping to open the third one at Espanola. And again, the passport service, I already talked about this, but just to reiterate, we've already brought in 1.1 million in revenue. We're trending towards another 200,000, and this program has won both a national and regional award. In '22, more than 12,000 people voted at the library. The library is the most popular voting site, and I know most of you have been out at the library during voting, whether you were campaigning or you went there to vote, but it is very busy. Some people call it a circus, but it is very busy during that time. And I wanted to talk about this program in particular because many people just don't know it exists. But for the last several years, we've had a program through the state library, and they paid for it. And Flagler County assessed and distributed the scholarships, and all they had to be was 19 and over. They didn't graduate high school, didn't get a GED, and we would assess them. They would get the scholarship, and even if they'd only started ninth grade, they were able to continue. We had 12 residents during this last several years earn their high school diploma and career certificate so that they could go on to college or a higher paying job. We now have a new one. She just graduated in February, so I like to just say that Teresa Dawn Fly, congratulations, and she completed the program and is officially a high school graduate. Some of the career paths that they could have selected: childcare, commercial driving, food and hospitality, home care, manufacturing, office management, retail, security, hospitality, and leisure, and I believe she had chosen commercial driving. Another thing that we started this year was our graduation photos, and this came about because about a year ago I was contacted by a parent who had seen that Volusia County was offering something similar to this and wanted to know why we weren't. Well, it took us about a year to put the program together, and I'm pleased to announce that we started it. We've been advertising it since March, and we had our first session on April 5th, and we'll be doing the photos all month of April and all month of May. And basically, they come in, they have their photos done by the library. We send them to them via email, and they can have them printed. So they save a lot of money by doing this. I don't know if anybody has had their children's pictures done through the vendor that the school uses. I did last year, and I know just for the digital package for senior photos and graduation photos, I spent over $700 just for the digital package. So this is a way to give back to the community and provide a savings for them. Our newest item that we just put in maybe a week ago is called Pillar Booth, and it's a single-person study pod. I guess you could call it the modern phone booth. Our customers will now have a private area to do Zoom meetings, telehealth appointments, online classes, virtual tutoring, and it was paid for with a grant from our consortium, Northeast Florida Library Network, which is also known as NEFLIN. But the thing about this is, prior to COVID, we had 4 study rooms, but out of a need for the teens to have a space, we took out those study rooms because we couldn't add on to the building. That was impossible to do. So instead, we took out the 4 study rooms and a storage closet, and the Friends paid for, it cost about $36,000. The Friends paid for that room to be built, but COVID hit, and then everybody wanted these private rooms because they had these virtual tutorings or online classes that they wanted to do. So it became a necessity, and a lot of libraries across the country are getting into these because they're portable. You can move them around the library, so you can relocate them as you need to. So, as you can see, the day we put it in, that very day, we had our first customer, so it is being used. These are our online learning resources, and I like to just talk about them briefly, but we have online magazine and news, which is Press Reader, Daytona News Journal, and Newsbank, which is also known as America's News. We have ebooks, Hoopla, Cloud, Overdrive. We have legal forms and legal researching with LexisNexis. Chilton Auto Repair, Gale has a lot of cross-searching. They have health and business, Brain Fuse's online tutoring and test preparation, and Udemy, which has quite a few online courses in business technology and personal development that people can get access to and save some money. So there's always more to the story, and these are the people, service above self. These are the people that actually bring all those programs and services. And the Friends of the Library, I ask you to join the Friends because they pay for any fee-based programs. Flagler County Public Library. We are more than just books. So we have a lot of services, a lot of programs, classes, workshops. We were even a disaster recovery center after Matthew. So what is the real cost for library services in Flagler County? Priceless, right?
It is budget time. Thank you. Good presentation.
Flagler County Public Library, best return on your investment. Don't forget, we're your passport to the world. Come get your passport at the library. The money helps. There will always be more to the story. And Lauren Cowdery, Florida Virtual School, class of 23, that's her picture that we took. And she was willing to hold a sign that said, "I love Flagler County Public Library." So I wanted to share. I think that she takes a great picture, so I don't think it was our skills, let's put it that way. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Just
Any
thank you, Holly,
questions,
for your
staff?
tireless worker, and in addition to be the director, you do a few other things for the county, including legislative affairs and special projects and whatever else comes along. So I enthusiastically support the library.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have
Thank
a
you,
question
Holly.
on those pictures. Do you
Yes.
have different backdrops, or is it a single backdrop that you do for them?
Well, we do a green screen, so we can either put in a backdrop for them, or they can take it and put in whatever backdrop they want. It's
Interesting.
whatever they're choosing at this point. So we're giving them their picture with the green screen behind them. If they don't have the knowledge or skills, I'm working with our own audiovisual department to drop in, like with her, we dropped in that brown background, but we could use blue, we could use gray.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's awesome
welcome.
service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Flagler County Housing Forum update. How you doing?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Joseph. I'm the the chairman of the Flagler County Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. This is Valerie Clymer. She is a committee member. We're here to talk about the affordable housing forum that we are having on Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the FCAR Center. We will be hosting a community-wide housing forum. This forum was heavily advocated by the last chairman, Sandra Schenk, as a means to involve the community in addressing the affordable housing needs in the county. The forum will include roundtable discussions, updates on local housing initiatives, trends, presentations for the Florida Housing Coalition, and we will also have a presentation about the Live Local Act that was signed into law on March 29th by the governor. We'll have a 30-minute lunch break. This whole thing will be about us community coming together and networking, talking about the problems that we have, and laying down some foundations for us to move forward for proactive policies for affordable housing. Lunch will be provided, so we please encourage everyone to sign up for this. You can sign up on flaglercounty.gov/ship. The link will take you to an Eventbrite, and you can just go ahead, register where you're from, your name, address, and all that stuff will be provided, and we will see everyone there on Friday. I know, Commissioner, you won't be there, unfortunately, but I will be speaking on your behalf. So if you have any notes, please just make sure you get them over to me so I can take care of that for you. But I hope to see everyone else there, and we've got some personnel coming from all the municipalities as well as some other individuals coming outside of the county.
Good, thank you.
All right, thank
We'll
you.
be there.
I'm counting on the rest of you to pick up my slack for not being there.
Next, we have an engineering project update by our county engineer, Faith Akatib. Faith?
Good evening, Commissioners. Faith Al-Khatib, County Engineer. I'm here today to update you on two projects. The first one, it is Commerce Parkway project. This project, as you know, is for the City of Panel. We're just managing this project for them, and it is located within their city limit. The project manager from the engineering department is Richard Zion, and he's doing a great job moving this project forward. As you know, excuse me, as you know, Commerce Parkway, it's a connector between US 1 and State Road 100. It is approximately 1.7 miles. As I mentioned, within the City of Panel, as you can see, the red line, it is the existing roadway alignment, and the yellow one is the proposed roadway. It will enhance safety during emergency, and also it will promote growth at this area. This roadway alignment, the existing speed limit is 20 miles per hour, and it's going to stay the same way in some sections, and will be 35 miles per hour in the proposed new roadway. It is going to be an urbanized collector. It's going to be having 2 lanes, 11 foot wide and divided. Also, it's going to be having an open drainage swales, 8 foot roadside shoulders, 5 foot will be paved, and 5 foot of sidewalks can be along the eastern side of the roadway. I just want to go over some information about the history of this project. I do remember more than 18 years ago, the City of Panel received $2 million from federal. It was earmarked funding. It came to the City of Panel. So the City of Panel, they did do the engineering and environmental study. It was completed in 2013. And also they did complete the design phase in 2017. After that, there was no construction funding available for them. Everybody went applied for and requested some funding from the state legislature's appropriation funding, and that was City of Panel requested some funding, Flagler County, and at that time, July last year, they received $6.8 million. From there, we moved on. We have an agreement between us and between the City of Panel to manage this project for them. And also, we executed the agreement between us and between FDOT to receive the $6.8 million to move on to the construction phase. As you know, this project has been sitting on the shelf since 2017, so the design has to be updated. So with that said, also I would like to share with you some of the project estimated cost history here. In 2013, when they did the engineering and the environmental study, the cost estimate of the construction project was $4.7 million. 4 years after that, when they finished the design, the construction cost estimated was $8.8 million. Then before even the City of Panel, they applied for the legislators requesting some funding, we updated the cost estimate and it was $13.6 million. Just this month, we received the final cost estimate for this project, and it is at this time $13.6 million. With that said, I'm sorry, it's $14.2 million. The total available project funding at this time, it's almost $15 million. $6.8 million from the legislatives, $3.2 million from Flagler County East Impact Fee, $3 million extra from the city of Panel to do utilities for water and sewer lines, and also they included $1 million towards the construction activities of this project for design and for construction engineering inspections. As you know, the actual project construction cost will be available to us and be determined when we advertise for this project and receive the bids. As I mentioned, at this time, we are updating the design. It's going to be completed next month in May. You have an agenda item tonight for you to approve, giving us the authority to go and negotiate with construction engineering inspection contract, and hopefully to issue a notice to proceed sometime in next month. The plan to advertise for this project is going to be June of this fiscal year. We are anticipating to start the construction sometime October in this fiscal year, also 2023. We are anticipating 18-month construction schedule for this project, and this project will be completed April 2025. This will conclude my presentations, and I have opened it for questions if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. It's been a long time coming.
It's
and
been a long
We
time
need this. We need this
Yes.
done. Yeah.
That's true. It has been a long time, and it's important now with the Sheriff's Operations Center there and everything that we have that other access out to Route 1. And it also will be an economic driver in the county.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Next presentation, it's about Graham Swamps Trail and State Road 100 pedestrian bridge. I have a video for you up there. I would like to thank England, Timms and Miller, our construction engineering inspection team. They did an amazing job putting this video for me in a short time. And I know we have here with us today Buckley. He's the vice president for England, Timms and Miller. He came here just to share a few things with you. Okay. Can we start the video, please? Go ahead. the U-beams, 2022 construction. Just want you to know.
Thank you.
I would like to acknowledge the team who did work on this project. First, the design team, KCA. The engineer of record, his name is Simon. He did an amazing job designing this bridge, and I call it's a one-of-a-kind bridge in the state of Florida. It's amazing. This video, they did fly the drone. The last section, it was last Tuesday. But with the weather, it's ongoing construction happening. We are anticipating for this project to be completed sometime in July. And at that time, we'll have a big celebration. Also, the contractor, our Massey contractors, they have been working on this project for at least the last 2 years, and they have been doing a good job considering everything was going on with this technical and important project for Flagler County. The construction engineering inspection team, as I mentioned, is England, Timms, and Miller. Buckley, the vice president, he's here. They did an amazing job keeping this project moving forward. And last not least, Amy Strogo, she's from the engineering department. She's the project manager. She has been doing an amazing job getting this project moving forward. The cost estimate of this project did cost approximately $12 million, or that funding came in from the Federal Highway Department, and also there's a lot of ongoing working good relationship between us and between FDOT. And that will conclude my presentation, unless if Buckley Williams, he would like to say a few things about this project, it will be appreciated. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Commissioners. Buckley Williams with England, Timms, and Miller. And certainly like to echo everything that Faith mentioned about the challenging aspects of this project, but the team members that really put this project together to get it to this point, and we're almost there. Just a few highlights that were kind of brief on the video for you is just to share for the audience and for you today. This is almost 2 miles of brand-new trail. Connecting obviously Lehigh Trail to the State Road 100 connection and the future Bulow Trail as well. Over 1,600 feet of elevated boardwalk, over 500,000 pounds of steel going into the bridge structure, a very unique A-frame structure, pedestrian enclosure that will be lighted. So hopefully we'll have a chance to show the final completed project at maybe twilight sometime down the road. And as you can see, paths for the lights for the pathway for the pedestrians to use. So all in all, a very unique project, very challenging as it relates to working over a state roadway, working through the design that Simon and KCA worked to minimize impacts from the wetlands, and just overall access, working with the contractor to make sure that we can get this project done as soon as possible, safely, of course, and just with a high quality, and hopefully in the future, an award-winning project for Flagler County.
Thank you.
I would like to add one thing. Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan, for taking the time coming out there in one of the weekends at night, watching and supporting the construction team installing the U-beams. We appreciate you and thank you so much. And for me, I call it Sullivan Bridge. This is the way how I call it. Thank you, Commissioners. Any
Thank you.
questions?
No.
I call
thank-
it the bridge to the future because it's going to really make a tremendous difference in the south part of the county, connecting all the trails. And then we have some other stuff coming too, tied to the tourist development.
Thank you, Faith.
Thank you, Faith.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up is community outreach. This 30-minute time period has been allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct your comments to me. Podium is now open.
Chairman, Commissioners.
State your
Charles
name.
Cowart here.
Yep, there you go.
I'm here on behalf of the west side of Flagler County. That was amazing. That was a lot of stuff I didn't know about. That's great. I'm excited. I was just going to kind of give you the update on where I'm at with everything out there. There's a lot of people that are willing to contribute to this, and we are in the process of reaching out to some grant writers and whatnot, and I was kind of just hoping that maybe the county would be willing to meet someone along the way. Just the motivation for the individuals in the community might be, they're kind of driving up there now, looking at this empty slab, and it's kind of devastating for them a little bit. They stand there and just kind of look at it. But I feel like if they had a little bit of motivation to know that, maybe if the county was willing to come and, they might be willing to contribute. There's already some players on board that are, have already promised to do certain things along the way, but I just was trying to continue to follow up on this, and I've contacted many well-standing citizens in this community, and they want something. They'd like to have something similar to that, but it really doesn't matter at this point. But we're continuing to and I'm every day seeing more and more people and just continuing to put it out there. So I just wanted to follow up and let you know.
Okay, we appreciate that.
Yeah, so, all right, thank you all.
Thank you. Next speaker. Seeing no one approach, I'll close community outreach. Commissioners, any comments on the consent items? I'm not asking you to pull them at this time, but do you have any comments? Ms. Sullivan?
I just wanted to mention item 7B, which is the Tourist Development Council reappointment request. And I want to mention it for a couple of reasons. One, the Tourist Development Council is kind of unique in that we have both business professionals and members from the other cities and the county that support the Tourist Development Council. One of them is Mr. Stephen Baker, and he represents, the
resort.
The hotel, the hammock, Ocean Hammock, and is an important person. But the point being, again, is that he's a member of the board, and therefore we get both the business and the government input to it. And there's a lot of things going on. The only reason I wanted to mention this is there are a lot of things that are going on between the Board of County Commissioners and the Tourist Development Council all this year. There have been financial items and other items. I'm not going to get into everything, but we do have an important meeting coming up Wednesday at 9 o'clock. We have a new member coming in. Eric Cooley will be the new member from the city of Flagler Beach, so another significant change there. As we were briefed at our last meeting, the Visitor Ecotourism Center is now going to be tied in to the bridge, to the presentation we just saw. So I think there's a lot of exciting things going on. And I wanted to tell people, it's a public meeting on 9 o'clock on Wednesday, and with all the developments that are going on tied into tourism right now, I recommend that people think about coming. We have a good membership, and we look forward to it.
That meeting's here in this chamber. At
In this
9
chamber,
o'clock. Yeah.
right.
Okay. Mr. Dance, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Ms. Pennington, do you have anything you want to talk about?
I'm going to want to pull one.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien? None. Okay. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Now's your opportunity to pull any items you'd like to pull. Mr. O'Brien? Ms. Pennington?
7D.
D or B?
Andy?
No, sir.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 7D.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 7D. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Ms. Pennington,
Yeah.
7D.
Mr. Lagasse? So first, I just want to start by prefacing, I don't know if anyone had looked through this very well, but I'll start with this discussion by saying that I care greatly about conservation, air and water pollution, so my concerns mentioned here are not in regards to any of that. So I had first wanted to start with a couple of questions, and one is that this letter that you're asking us to support the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council in the participation of the federal grant, the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. I noticed here that we're part of this council, correct?
Well, sort of. We're in an MSA, a municipal statistical area, that includes Volusia County, but our regional council that we're a part of is the Northeast Florida Regional Council. So we're kind of like right in the middle between the two for this particular.
So when they, one of the things that they're awarded this, they will oversee this grant and the implementation and the activities associated with it, correct?
Correct.
But it will involve Flagler County.
Right. I believe it'll, as I understand it, it won't involve us actually. We're supporting them going for the grant, and then once it's engaged, I believe it's a statistical, or it's data collection and that sort of thing. I don't believe it's.
It'll
something
be
that will
collecting data from Flagler County. So my concerns are this, and I'll just go ahead and go through it. So this is my true concern with it. So this pollution reduction grant is granted by the EPA is funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. And one of it says that we would be supporting, by addressing this, that the funds are used for the development and solutions that address emissions, expand and incorporate community climate change resiliency, and incorporate climate resiliency into applicable local plans. And per the EPA, by agreeing to this, we would be required to develop climate action plans designed to reduce greenhouse emissions. And then in the letter that we're expected to sign, we state that we support the Central Florida Council in managing the grant, and the EPA website confirms that we would support the council who submits for this grant. They will have final say in management of funds and implementation plan that would include our county. It also says, under the program, we would be required to submit a priority climate action plan, which includes emission-targeted regulations and policies implemented as the municipality, along with timelines and budgets, a comprehensive climate action plan and status reports, the procurement and hiring deadlines of 4 years for these initiatives, and then a quarterly reporting on the progress. And then, once this grant goes through, we are expected in subsequent years to provide updates to the EPA on elements and information contained in the comprehensive climate plan we introduce, including the implementation of greenhouse gas reduction measures. And then within a year of this grant, this council is expected to apply for the implementation grant that will require us to put the council's plan into action. Now, we are one of 4 states. The states chose not to participate in this particular grant, which was pretty big news. They stated, the state stated that there are financial and legal requirements that they don't want to be implemented in. So I don't know, I guess my concern from a financial and legal standpoint is what is the commitment we're making for the county if we become part of this grant? I see the letter of support, but are we now forcing our county to come up with be a part? They're going to come up with a climate action plan. They're going to come up with emission regulations and a targeted way to reduce them. But what are we going to be part of that? Are we now signing ourselves into that?
Right. My understanding is that we're not, by supporting a letter for the application, that we're not tying ourselves into any regulation that comes out of it. I think it's really a support for the look at the grant, and then whether the county participates would be really up to the board, I believe.
Yeah, that's my concern, because actually, when you go, and I apologize, I had it here, when you go to the EPA's website, they actually have the subject, the notice of intent to participate in the plant grant, and it says, on behalf of, I accept the EPA's offer to participate in the grant program, and we designate this council with oversight and responsibility for managing the grant funds and coordinating activities and deliverables pertaining to the grant program. The letters of support from this following jurisdictions are, and we would put our county there. So I think, for me, I'm just concerned that we are signing on with Ormond Beach and Daytona and the other municipalities, Deltona, into a federal grant that the state has decided that it has legal and financial, tentacles to it, and I don't really feel comfortable. On my part, I'm not sure that the documents that you provided really clear up our involvement in it, per se. So that's where I stand on it.
Well, I think the basic question she's asking is, what are we signing up for?
Right. At this point, you're signing up to support a grant application, and that's it. I don't believe that you're signing up to be regulated any more than you would unless you, I don't know how to answer that question right now, but I believe this is just a letter of support for the application. It's not signing on to.
The letter in particular says that we, as the Flagler County Board of Commissioners, support the council in managing this grant, particularly for the purpose of collecting necessary data to assist in planning and identifying projects that will assist the citizens of Flagler County and the surrounding region to identify and prevent and mitigate for impacts for climate pollution. And then it says, we expect that the data from this project, from this grant, will assist in our county, our municipalities, and our regional partners' redoubled efforts to understand and develop resilient strategies related to sea level rise, inland flooding, air pollution, extreme heat. The EPA, this specific grant, says it's not for sea level rise, it's just for greenhouse gas initiatives. So I think, the letter sounds like we're signing up along with them for this grant. And that's my concern. And I watched two webinars on this from the EPA's website this weekend and went through the documents and the white papers on it. And they actually have a document that says, go out and get this letter, and then put all the jurisdictions to it, and you've all signed on for, that's my concern, is what we got, and that letter sounds like we're signing the county up as well to use that data to create, and they'll be the ones creating the climate action plan, and then implementing it, and are we subject to implementing it or paying back that part of the grant because we didn't? That's my concern with that. Yeah, that's it.
If you'd not like to sign it, that's fine with me.
No. I'm sorry. That's why I pulled it. Everything on the EPA website says, that we would be joining the Central Florida Regional Planning Council and participating in it. If they don't need us to sign in support of it, because after this grant, you are expected to sign up for the next year for the implementation grant. But then you've got measurable, things you have to hit based on whatever climate change action plan this board creates. Sorry.
That's fine. Those are good questions. Dave?
Right. Since I'm the rep to the Northeast Florida Regional Council, I think I should check out with them to find out, are they involved in a similar study? I don't know that right now, but if they were, it would be more appropriate for us to be with them, since that's the group we're,
Right.
but I don't know that.
Maybe,
I actually have the list of who signed up as of April 14th, because the EPA publishes it out there. But the state of Florida declined to participate in any of these. But the EPA allowed for municipalities to
Like the
circumvent their
67
state.
largest, I think.
Yeah, and we were one of the ones that said no, because I actually looked up the reasoning for it, and they said, we don't know at the end of the day, what is the real true cost, and what are the implementations, because this is all to get to the 2030 and the 2050 greenhouse emission standards that their EPA's, it doesn't seem like there's enough in the letter of support to say what our responsibility is at the end of the day.
right. Well,
That was my.
I would suggest maybe that you could do a motion to table this until we get some more information. I think you've raised some good questions.
I mean, I would support it only based on what you've said, tabling it.
Tabling.
Because I don't want to obligate us for something down the road. And I think it almost requires, I don't know if legal has had time to look at the ramifications of signing this and what that commits us to. Because the original letter seemed very, it was.
I know, yeah, that's why I went.
I guess read it a little bit differently. I think the only reason they're asking us to give the letter of support is because we're in the MSA by definition, but we're not, this grant, it goes to the city of Ormond Beach, correct? It doesn't go to,
No.
I don't
does,
believe that.
the East, excuse me, the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, of which we are not a member.
Right, but they will take all of our data, create a climate plan, a climate action plan, and then they say in their
Which binds
letter.
us to nothing. The only thing they're asking us to do is because of the fact that we're part of the Deltona, Daytona, Ormond Beach MSA, which we have been for many years.
I don't, the EPA letter on it that you submit this letter with, the EPA has a whole section, says that we accept, on behalf of this municipality, we accept the EPA's offer to participate in the planning grant program and designate this organization with oversight and responsibility for management grant funds and coordinating activities and deliverables pertaining to the grant program. And letters of support are attached. But then it says in the EPA, and I guess this is why we probably need to talk to legal, the EPA says that once you're in this program, you're expected to apply for the grant, which I'm sure they will, to actually implement whatever they develop. And then that's my question, are we now implementing Flagler County into certain greenhouse gas reduction measures that we have not looked at or discussed? So that's my question is, what exactly are we? Yeah, so with that, I'd like to move to table item 7D, letter of support for East Central Florida Regional Planning Council participation for the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program, pending more information about our responsibilities and commitment.
Second. And again, just because I just want to make sure about the commitment issue. I think Donnie raised some good points. Leanne's just raised enough of a concern for me that I think it warrants, from the safe side of me, I don't see a problem, unless there's a deadline, having 2 weeks maybe to look at it or bring it back.
I believe there's a deadline for the letter of support,
28.
but yeah, I can do more research if you'd like to talk further about it. I do know that Northeast Florida is looking at the same grant, but because we're not in their MSA, we're not included, but they are looking at ways to kind of work together with the East Central
Well,
Florida.
that's why I just like to, I can do a little follow-up on that.
Again, I think the data, as long as there's nothing tying us, I think collecting the data as what I understand our conversations and as far as formulating some resiliency plans is important. I mean, we've seen that we're exposed here. And so all of that, I think, is important as long as there's not some, as you said, tentacle that is.
Well, I think what I'm concerned is you're going to come back for the grant. They're going to come back for the grant for implementation, which does now bind you to implement this climate resiliency plan, which I don't know what it entails, and so.
Well, yeah, okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we table item 7D, letter of support for East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Hearing nothing, motion passes. 7D is tabled. Thank you. General business, item 8A, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board appointments. John?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 3 applicants for 2 positions on the Park and Recs Advisory Board. I'm going to go ahead and distribute these ballots, and then I will recollect them and quickly tally. If there is a tie, I have a second ballot.
Okay. Oops.
I need to sign it.
Mr. Chairman, there is no need for a second vote. We have a clear two winners here, Mr. Charles Cowart and Robert Knapp.
Thank you, Sean. Next up is item 8B, adoption of a resolution to vacate a portion of the plat of the Deerfield Trace subdivision in the PUD zoning district within the Hunters Ridge Development of Regional Impact, the DRI. Adam?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Adam Mangle, Growth Management Director. This is a request for drainage easement vacation on Lot 8 within the Deerfield Trace subdivision. And Mr. Thompson's present. I think also Mr. Buswell's here. This is the location of Lot 8. You can see it there at the top portion of the cul-de-sac. That's Deerfield Court. This is how it's depicted on the plat, and this is a 15-foot wide drainage easement along the north side or the left side of Lot 8. And what had happened was that was intended to be a yard drain that would drain back to the west, come into that cul-de-sac and a catch basin that's there. This was the intended infrastructure that was submitted in the construction drawings, and in the end, this was the result in the as-built. And so that yard drain was not installed, making the 15-foot drainage easement unnecessary. And so this request submitted by Mr. Thompson is to take that away, and then in its place, there would be no easement. There would be a 7.5-foot side setback that would be observed. This enables a larger home to be placed on the property. If the drainage easement remains in place, no portion of the structure, including any eaves, can extend into that 15-foot wide drainage easement. And so it's just a matter of being able to reduce that encroachment, that area where they cannot encroach down. So as depicted, this is that specific purpose survey that's included in your packet that shows the before situation that we would have, 15-foot wide drainage easement again on that left-hand side, and then with it eliminated, and then certainly we're still going to have the easements along the Lot 9, but you'd have the elimination on Lot 8. So with that, we have a staff recommendation for approval of the partial plat vacation for the 15-foot wide drainage easement lying along the north or left side of Lot 8. With that, I'll close, wait any questions or comments. Again, the applicant is present for any questions you have from them.
Well, one of the requirements is that the neighborhood all approve it. And was that the HOA that approved?
Yes, sir, it was the HOA.
That was okay.
Yeah, so they're required to maintain the drainage system, and so part of that justification for that is just this. There's no infrastructure within that easement that requires their maintenance.
But the HOA approved is enough, that's enough
Correct.
to get everything.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
The HOA is the builder at this point, right?
It is. I think at least he's the majority representation with the HOA.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I mean, I'll make a motion to approve. I don't think we have any other avenue but to
Second.
approve it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve adoption of the resolution to vacate a portion of the plat of the Deerfield Trace subdivision in the PUD zoning district within Hunters Ridge Development of Regional Impact. All in favor, say aye.
Let me make one before
Yeah,
we vote.
sure.
Just to clarify one point, right? So this was not part of a change order or wasn't an approved deletion, as I understand.
Yeah, I could not find where it had gone through a county change order or approval for its removal. That we had the as-built had come in then to the district showing that it had been removed.
I guess my point is, just so this doesn't go as without a comment, and that is that we need to look at our processes. If we're getting these through the construction process, these should be during the process should be part of a change order. And if it was value engineered, then it as a deletion, it should have been part of a change order to keep track of those modifications. We shouldn't be picking them up at final plat and then or the as-built and then vacating these things afterwards. So if we can, these shouldn't be coming back to us, and hopefully if we can find somewhere in the processes where this, where we didn't catch this, let's look at that.
Once again, item 8B, all in favor?
Mr. Chairman, you do need to call for public comment. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. I'll open the floor to public comment on item 8B. Yes, sir.
Yes, Steve Buswell with Parker Minchenberg and Associates. It wasn't a change order. We had redesigned and value engineered before it was approved and regraded the lots, so everything kind of went to the street and to the rear of the lots. This was basically identical on the lot that was to the west. It's just when the surveyor had prepared the plat, he removed that one, but not the one on the right side. So just to clarify, it wasn't something that was not constructed or not approved.
So we're just fixing it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So was design changed before the bid was let?
It was yes. It was changed before it went out to bid and went to construction.
Okay.
Okay. You all right, Andy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, item 8B, close public comment, bring it back to the board for item 8B. All in favor of approving it, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Item 8C, quasi judicial, application number 3329, request for final plat approval and acceptance of maintenance and performance bonds for Groveside at Ormond Station. Adam.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we just want to make sure if there's any ex parte communications.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. O'Brien?
No, sir.
No.
Lane Pennington?
No, sir.
None.
And I had none. Thank you, Sean.
Here's the subject parcel. We knew this as Celadine previously, and so it's on that northeast quadrant of the intersection of Airport Road and Hunters Ridge Boulevard. You see Hunters Ridge Boulevard coming in at the south end of that cul-de-sac. And so that's effectively the first final plat that's heading for approval north of Airport Road. So at 39.84 acres, approximately 99 single-family detached lots within the Hunters Ridge DRI. And formerly the Celadine Development, PUD, is still known as the Celadine Planned Unit Development, approved in 2017. And again, that first plat approved north of Airport Road. Here's the chart from the dimensional requirements that I copied here for anyone's concern from 2017. And then the plats, the pages themselves, 5 pages of the plat that look just like a plat would look for us. It has the dedications on the first sheet. Second sheet has the key map, and then each successive page then provides the details that are necessary for depicting the lots for eventual sale. The consideration I always want to remind the board of, a plat is a convenient method that we have in Florida and elsewhere for selling property. You can also sell property through meets and bounds, but a subdivision plat is unique because it's a graphic that's depicted, accepted in the public records, and that allows then things to be more conveniently sold through references to lots and blocks and those sorts of things. And so we've reviewed this for the technical requirements, found that it's met those requirements, is consistent with the preliminary plat that was previously submitted to us, and the overall DRI development order, and would then have recommendation for approval. And that recommendation then, if you choose to approve, would include the acceptance of the two bonds that are here, the performance bond for the remaining infrastructure. That amount $734,731.50. Maintenance bond in the amount of $375,418.21, and that being very specific amounts. Again, the performance bond, 125% of the remaining work, maintenance bond, 10% of the work that's been completed. And then the condition upon the final plat not being recorded until resolution of all final site inspection comments and the development engineer's review and approval of the updated final as-built, and further condition upon the perpetual maintenance of the drainage and private roadway tracks by the Grove Site and Ormond Station Homeowners Association, including successors and signs, without recourse to Flagler County. Second option for you is denial likely for one of the reasons that's in the prelude statement above, that it doesn't meet one of those requirements, is inconsistent with the development order. Final item or option for you is continuance of the application for some information that we have not provided to you. With that, again, I'll close and await any questions or comments. And the applicant is present on this item as well.
Mr. Chair, just one clarification for Adam. It looked like the major item not completed was the lift station.
Yes, yeah. So it's mostly utility related. We did have a conversation with Ormond about that, and we've included them within that performance bond. That amount is what I'm recalling. Yes, sir.
Once again, we have the 5-foot setbacks on the sides. Has there been any discussion with the builder about air conditioning units, generators, et cetera?
We have not. We didn't have those conversations back in 2017.
Right.
And so we would have an expectation that they'll be offset in some way to be able to provide some clearance around them. That language was not incorporated into these PUDs at this time.
So we can't add it?
Cannot add it at this time. And so we can certainly tell them that we'd like to have them be aware of that, and a desire for us to have a horizontal clearance between those air conditioning units. Right. This being D.R. Horton too, I'm pretty confident that they've dealt with this. This isn't their first rodeo.
Right.
And so I think that they've seen this everywhere else. They've had 5-foot setbacks. So they may actually have us teach us a few things. So we look forward to working with them.
Okay. Commissioners? Seeing commissioners are satisfied, we'll open up to public comment. Anybody in the public wish to comment on application 3329? Seeing no one approach, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve application 3329, the Grove Side final plat.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve application 3329. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Adam. Item 9, public hearings. First one up is 9A, quasi judicial. Application number 3339. Request to amend special exception for 14 townhouses to allow 16 single-family detached lots on the RC, Residential Limited Commercial District at 6645 North Ocean Shore Boulevard. Adam.
When we last met, we had a few concerns that came out of the board's discussion on this item, and we think we've worked through most of those. And so my presentation here will be brief. I'll turn it over to the applicant to be more specific on some of these items. Subject parcel being the former Granada Campground site. And you can see it there at the eastern terminus of Old A1A and south end of Matanzas Shores, north portion. You can maybe see just a touch of Surf Club on this. And that this is one of the graphics that was submitted by the applicant. This differs from the previous iteration that you had, in that lot 16 has been reconfigured as was requested. It's been reduced in its size. to give a larger buffer adjacent to A1A. So consistent with that, there's a detail that was also made part of your packet showing that additional buffer area. We also then, and you'll notice it in our conditions, we added an 80% opacity measure. And so that, and the reason for that, we can never ever quite get to 100% opacity that's kind of accepted in planner land, that an 80% opacity is something that you can look at it, you'll recognize it when you see it, it should be mostly opaque. And so that's something we had added into that.
4 years to achieve that?
I think that was the timing, yes, sir. I believe so. I have the condition very specific here in just a moment. Did you also asked for information on the sewer? We researched that, confirmed that. We already knew that because John Bay with the Health Department is part of our technical review committee. He had already confirmed that, but we confirmed it for the record. Had the records there, I think, from 05, 06. I wanted to say we made that as part of your packet, but that showed that the septic had been appropriately abandoned and closed out. And then maybe more critically, discussion about traffic incidents. I don't want to call these accidents because they weren't all that, but there were, I think there were some 20 different incidents over the last 10 years. We obtained this through records from Florida Department of Transportation. They provided this to us, and so that's our date range from 2013 to 2023. You can see at that south end, basically at where number 4 is on the graphic, was one of those incidents that did occur, but you can see that it ranges throughout. And this was the area that I provided to DOT to provide information back to us. You know, we could make it bigger, we could get more traffic incidents, but I think this was specific to really our area of focus with this. And so you had that within your packet. I'll let you read what that, then I believe it answers your question. This description really hadn't materially changed. We're still at least bringing this to you because of the difference here in the projects, 14 townhomes to 16 single-family detached lots. The assertion on the part of the applicant that the needed additional 2 lots is because of the financial commitment to the Matanzas Shores Owners Association related to the connection to their utilities. Part of the trade-off here in that PUD light discussion that we had last time would be the consent to the easement and also the reconstruction that would happen of the dune by the developer at the developer's expense to some degree. We've talked about that, some of the conditions as well. And then we also have the public dune walkover that's being provided. Emphasizing here for the record, there's no discussion that we have of parking. This would end up being a connection then for pedestrians and bicycles who would be utilizing the sidewalk on the east side of A1A to then access the beach. And it would be a public access, really the only one that doesn't require a fee. If we're looking at Washington Oaks and we're saying there's one there, that is a fee-based access that's there. Otherwise, you're then at one of the ends of the roads, I suppose, in Oceanside or somewhere in Marineland Acres further to the south. So this would be a public access for someone on a bike or pedestrian access being able to get to the beach.
At what point do they make a decision whether it's on the north side or the south side of the?
I think we'll hear some testimony about that tonight. That and we had talked kind of through with all the parties. I think there's still a focus on wanting to have it on the south side, but you'll hear that I think more directly from some of the parties.
Did we do the quasi?
We didn't. We did.
We did not.
Oh,
on this?
Thank you.
Okay.
We did not disclose ex parte communications on this item.
All right, well, we'll do it now.
Before we start talking.
Before we start talking.
No.
Ms.
none,
Sullivan, anything?
None.
Yeah, after the last meeting, was chatting with Mr. Shimeno afterwards out in the lobby, really just rehashing the meeting. There wasn't any additional information relayed. And about 2 weeks ago, had a phone call, really just myself repeating the objections that I had and stating that still was waiting on legal to interpret those, which they have done which is part of the amendment, part of the agenda application was legal's interpretation of the different issues.
Ms. Pennington.
Just the residents' concerns that have been emailed in.
Mr. O'Brien.
Just the additional emails from Mr. Shimento
Yeah, I've received a couple emails from residents out there, and I've discussed it with Mr. Chimeno also.
And so the conditions, and I'll just hit these, and so the options that you have are basically the same, but there are a few maybe nuanced additions or corrections, changes we have made to those. I'll try to point them out. So an option for approval, and then with that first one, owner satisfying any outstanding conditions from that chart that I had as part of the agenda item last time. It was in the presentation. I haven't gone through it this time, but there was the 3 different iterations, some 19 items that were agreed upon by the parties. The project connects to central waters provided through Matanzas Shores Owners Association. And that, again, that executed wastewater treatment service license agreement was previously attached, not attached this time, but it's still the agreement that's prevailing here with this. Owner provides the county, either along that north parcel line or south parcel line, 15-foot wide pedestrian easement for a public dune walkover. Owner consents to a dune maintenance restoration easement in favor of the county. And then developer successors or assigns, inclusive of any HOA, reconstruct the damage to the dunes to pre-damage conditions to the greatest extent possible, consistent with permits issued by FDEP. So that language is a little different than what we had before. That's more exact, more closely aligns with some language that's within the comprehensive plan. And so that there is some intentional language that's there. The owner, in consultation with the county, agrees to the restoration of the dunes bordering the subject parcel to the extent permitted by the respective agencies, almost repetitive to the one above it, but a little different as well. North and west perimeter buffers be augmented so as to create an opaque 80% opacity barrier of natural vegetation, a minimum of 6 feet in height within 5 years of the commencement of development of the parcel. Project is designed with a cul-de-sac, minimum 50-foot turning radius, secondary means of egress and ingress is stabilized with an all-weather surface sufficient to accommodate emergency service vehicles. All single-family homes within the limits of the project will be required to install either a 13D or 13R fire sprinkler system. Lot 16's width be reduced at the time of platting so as to provide an adjacent buffer width, a minimum of 30 feet in width between Lot 16's west line and the east right-of-way line of North Ocean Shore Boulevard. We believe that that's been accomplished now, but keep that comment in there because this one's specific to platting. That the final site plan comport with the dimensional requirements of the concept plan reviewed by the board as part of this request, and that the owner present the final site plan to the A1A Scenic Pride Committee for their review and comment prior to final site plan approval by the county. The other 2 options available to you would be denial, and then would be tabling for a time and date certain. For the record, we did provide public notice after the tabling just to ensure that everyone knew of the tabling and knew of this hearing. So while it was not required because we're not adopting an ordinance through this process, we went ahead and we completed that notice just to make sure everyone knew about it. With that, I'll close. Wait any questions or comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Adam, in our legal opinion by our county attorney, he mentions that we should get a start date and a completion date as part of this. You can or cannot comment on that, but I would expect the applicant to comment on that. Just don't want to bring that up.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Well, I just wanted to say, before we get into public comment, the letter that we received on April 6th from our legal department doesn't really tell us what to do. I mean, it gives all the possibilities.
Not at all.
And we're kind of damned if we do, damned if we don't, as far as what's going to happen with whatever decision we make here. I'm not overly concerned about that, but I would say that we've been put in a position by the board where we're really putting it's not a clear-cut decision either way. And I had the same feeling last time. So I just want to make that, before we hear from the public, I'm interested to hear the comments still, because we're still in that situation when we left the last meeting, as far as I'm concerned. And just a couple of things if they want to talk about. You know, a left-hand turn into this development, no matter if it's the north or south part of it, is right after the road comes together. So that left turn is going to be tough. You're going to have 2 lanes of traffic coming into 1 lane of traffic, and then they're going to have to stop to make the left-hand turn. I worry about that there, but so that's a worry. And the other question, if somebody would, I kind of would like to see these million-plus houses, and they're all like white castle, large houses, Is there anything in the agreement that we're talking about that says can the guy just go in there and buy a lot and build whatever kind of house he wants? Or are they going to have to all look like the same thing? So it's just a couple of thoughts as we go into this.
Anything else, Commissioner? I have a comment that I expect the applicant to discuss, but all the complaints I get from residents is they want you to look at what's there now, and quite honestly, it's ugly. But that's not the way it's going to look when it's done, and I want the applicant to discuss that. Because the level of the dirt that's there now is not the level of the dirt that these homes are going to be constructed on if we approve them. So I would like to hear from the applicant on that issue about how many feet of fill and what it's going to look like. And additionally, my concern always is water management. And although the complaint now is that this area floods, well, okay, it's not gonna when they bring 5 feet or 4 feet or whatever fill they bring. So I would like the applicant to discuss kind of water management of this plan and where's the water going to go? Because it's still going to come in, whether it's heavy rain or whether it's a high tide, which now floods that place. So hopefully with the dune replenishment and raising this whole development up, whatever number of feet it is, that'll solve that. But I'd like to hear from the applicant on that as well.
Chair, if I could just touch a quick response back to Commissioner Sullivan. And so that we wanted to stay kind of loose on the DOT requirements, particularly about any access requirements, but certainly they're permitting. DOT will permit access. And I would say, maybe you've heard me even say something maybe a little inconsistent in this, that you can still strongly encourage your role as the governing body of the county. You can do that, but realizing that this is not your authority. You can't say it has to have a left turn lane. That is DOT's purview, but you can certainly strongly encourage it. And I think, let's see, what else? What was your other comment, Commissioner Sullivan? I blanked out on it.
House types.
House types. I think along the same lines, and we've stretched into this a little bit before. We had a graphic that was presented by the applicant at the last meeting that showed kind of the elevations. You could likewise make a consideration, make a condition, some kind of language that says they will be substantially in compliance or consistent with or comport to what you had shown. I realize that there will be some differences, some differentiation with it, but part of what Scenic A1A is concerned with whenever they have their review is that they wanted to see what that facade look will be like. And I think here with this, with that uniformity that you had presented previously, there won't be that ability for somebody to come in and kind of make their own adventure. I'll leave it at that. Let the applicant come up.
Well, I think we're concerned where they buy the lot and put a manufactured home in there, So.
The other, I did have one more point, and as the non-attorney, but you all certainly can understand this too, the county attorney's memo, and there was no prompting on this, but we talked internally about this. There certainly is exposure potentially any decision you make. If you remember the history with this, I think at one point we had both sides angry, so angry that I think we were actually having both of those engaged at the time with some of the court processes. And so that's the risk you have inherent with many decisions we make, but particularly with this one. And so I'd encourage you, don't let that weigh in your decisions, because the likelihood of it going one way or the other is probably pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Thank you.
So is the applicant going to make a presentation now?
Michael Schimento for the applicant. I don't have a presentation, but we'll go through this real quick. We had 2.5 hours last time. We all know that it's vested for the townhouse product, as is indicated, and this is an opportunity that we've been working with for 3 years with the county staff, thinking that the project that's presented to you today may be a better alternative. I think some of that is subjective, so we recognize that. But as Adam has told you in the past, we're vested for X and those obligations there. And this concept of PUD light really is just a special exception in the way they work, where the county commission or any jurisdiction can add conditions to it. So it is, and we can talk about those. So in the event that this project is approved in the capacity that we do, there were additional exactions, as we talked about, that come along with this project that would not come along with the other project. And I think I explained that to you all in one of the emails. And that really is the difference as to what your staff, engineers, planners, environmental people have negotiated with the developer over the last 3 years. And those things are that if this project happens, the county gets the following. It gets a commitment to connect to sewer from Matanzas Shores. It gets a commitment to execute and work with the county on the dunes easement that you've requested. It gets a commitment to rebuild the dunes on the property to the capacity that the feds and the county will allow us to. We talked about that. It gets an enhanced perimeter buffer, not only in the front, but also along the north and southern ends, as is shown on that plan. It gets public access to the beach, as discussed. And it gets what we call AVES, additional vehicle extractions, and those are the commitments to add the turn lane from south to north into the project, as well as XL and decel lanes. Ultimately, as Adam said, that has to be approved by the DOT. We hope that they will. We don't see any reason why not. Yes, sir.
Are you asking, are we going to ask the DOT for a left turn lane also? If you're coming?
Yes, sir. From
Okay.
south to north, left turn lane in. At that
If you're
turn.
going south to north, that's an easy fix, but if you're coming south,
Did I
we
say that
need,
backwards?
as
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Sullivan pointed out, we need a left turn lane there also.
Sorry, southbound, yes, turn left into the project. So there's that commitment with this project. You heard some comments last time about alleged environmental contamination on the project. That turned out not to be true. So there are no environmental issues. The issue with architecture, we haven't talked about that, but I can certainly take a timeout and ask that that is a commitment that it would be substantially similar. That is the way I understand it to be. And then lastly, the flooding issue that you talked about. Although that's not an exaction, I know it's important to the county, particularly after recent times. There will be somewhere between 3 to 4 feet of fill on the project, restoring particularly the eastern edge to where it was before the storms. All that project, all that runoff from the storms, or I'm sorry, from rainwater will collect in the streets, will drain towards the streets, go through a series of inlets and pipes, and drain into the pond or that dry retention area, which we're also using as a recreation area. Once it meets those requirements through St. John's Water Management District and the county, essentially it percolates into the soil, and if it's a severe rain, it literally pops off and goes back into the ocean. Now, if the ocean comes up 8 feet like it had in prior times, this project doesn't have an effect on anything really, and it too will have some flooding issues. To that extent, there was some discussion last time about coastal construction setback lines and those types of things. The law is very clear, and we have an engineer to talk about it if we need to, that you can build eastward of the coastal construction line. You just cannot have occupied rooms in there, and they have to meet certain breakaway things, such as a garage and a storage. So that issue, I don't know if it really
And
was
you
an
have
issue.
to, correct me if I'm wrong, we'd have to have those pilings.
Yes, sir.
Down.
Correct, right.
Okay.
Correct. So there's a construction technique for those homes that will be built east of that line. So again, I went through all those issues. There was another issue that we committed to that I didn't see, I did see it in your staff report, but not here, was the commitment to do the sprinklers. That came up last time, so the developer agreed. So with all that being said, we go through this PUD light or a special exception where the county can ask for conditions that are unique to this. And with them, with the approval of this project, we get all of those extra things. And as I explained to you in an email, the issue about at least just connecting to the sewer system and rebuilding the dunes, that probably exceeds $300-something thousand on the back of a napkin estimate. So it is significant. We have done a lot with your staff. I hope we've addressed all of your issues. I hope you can tell that this applicant, who has been around for a long time, is very amenable to work with you all, and we can talk about some more issues and address them as you see fit. I don't think I have anything else to add to the conversation other than specific questions that you all may have.
What's your sense on the walkway to the beach, north or south?
So on the south side, which is the bottom of this, Mr. Koch, who's in the audience, we had worked with them back in 2004-06. There is a non-exclusive easement to Mr. Koch along that to the beach. That was part of our agreement with him. The county, county staff about a week before the first commission meeting, came to us and asked if we would move it to the north. The question was asked why, and there was some comments about it might help with Army Corps spacing and things like that. I think Mr. Hadid and others in your staff may say it really doesn't meet those spacing requirements. So what we had told staff is if you need that to happen, we will agree to work through that issue, but we would also have to have consent with Mr. Koch to relocate that. So where we have it now is we're willing to work through those issues with you. But we designed it this way. It's not a deal killer one way or the other.
Mr. Dance.
Single family is a permitted use. So why not just design this based on the RC zoning's single family requirements, dimensional requirements? Why go through this process? Because special exceptions is not, you don't use special exceptions for the permitted use of single family. So why not just design something that meets the dimensional requirements under RC for single family?
Well, I guess as a softball to me, it's because the type of product that we would have under the RC wouldn't meet those dimensional requirements. And this is the product that the developer came to and asked that thought might be a better use than just the two long townhome projects. I think that answers your question.
So you can't, under straight zoning, you can't meet the requirements that you need to meet for density, for number of units, for...
Yeah, because of the minimum lot size requirements, yes.
But so I guess that gets back to one of my underlying questions, is that is really the use of special exceptions.
Correct.
And you're going from multifamily to single family.
Correct.
And in the old LDC, which you can't do now, but you could in order to get your 14 entitlements, was use special exceptions for multifamily. It's kind of how we got here in the first place.
Actually, under the old code, I think it was 7 or 8 units per acre. Yeah,
Right.
there
So
were
after all
significantly
that,
more units.
Right, you got your
before.
14. The underlying concern is that there's not a way in the land development code to affect single-family development with special exceptions. It's not there.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I understand what you're saying. I haven't studied land development code for that, so.
The second problem that I have is that we're skipping a step in special exceptions. Special exceptions are normally handled and stop at the planning board.
Correct.
So, but there was discussion at the planning board that this was due to its, whether it was controversial or very unique, right. It was going to go to the commission. And I think that the discussion of that inhibited or affected the planning board's review, because in many instances, if it's going to go to the commission anyway, but I think if they knew that the buck stopped with them, that there's a potential for a different review at the planning board or a different level of discussion. Normally, it can be appealed to the commission, and we are missing that appeal process. This should be coming to us as an appeal and not directly after the planning board. And it's a step that I think is, again, due to the uniqueness of this situation, I just don't, again, another one of those appealable or legal issues that makes this more complicated than it should be. Go ahead. If somebody else has some questions, I got to find my others.
To that topic, it was discussed with staff. We felt that the approval happened at planning board. I think your legal counsel explained to you in your memo and explained to us the rationale behind it, and we consented to allowing this to go forward. If it had been appealed, we'd be here the same talking about the same thing. So I don't mean to sway something, it's just kind of no harm, no foul.
Right, but you can make that jump, but I mean, it's there for a reason.
Agreed.
And we shouldn't be making those concessions, not something that's written, that should be followed. Go ahead, I'll open the floor.
On the subject of what the homes are going to look like, that I have that same concern, because your pictures are gorgeous, that they're going to look like this. I mean, they're all going to look the same pretty much, and they're very nice. It's beautiful almost. But what guarantee do we have that that's actually going to happen?
We just talked about it. So we've gotten to this point where this project is not really conceptual in nature. This is engineered. We went that far with it. And so as you saw, what I sent you, you actually have plans and designs and schematics of
Right.
the actual house.
That's what I was looking at,
Right.
yeah.
And so we are willing to commit to that they will be substantially the same, whether it's dove white or Arctic white or light gray. I don't know if that's important, but if we could, Adam suggested the word substantially similar, and if there's a debate about it, come ask the commission. I mean, we are committed to providing that product.
Well, that's
Yes, sir.
important to this thing, because, like I said, you don't want to have a
Mobile home.
manufactured home show
Certainly.
up on it.
Agreed.
Because you're advertising it as a $1.2 million home, and, okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
Let's make them all that way, you know?
We can commit that the architectural style that has been submitted to the city or to the county, plans included, will be substantially similar. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just, we all probably went out there and took a look at the place. I was interested to note that there's like either a reconstructed or a brand-new house directly across the street from this property now. Did you notice that? And I'm worried.
Oh, yeah.
If we try to do anything with that roadway, you're going to run into private property, doing anything to make it bigger or smaller or whatever. And I suspect that house probably met all the current rules for size and everything else as far as the lot goes and that kind of thing. So it can be done in that area. I know one's on the west side, one's on the east side of the road, but I just thought that was interesting that it's there now. And I don't know it doesn't really apply to this directly, other than when we eventually go to the traffic look at it, that it might have some impact.
Right, and to that traffic issue, the old one approved, the vested
I
project,
know.
does not have the additional vehicular exactions that we put in there on this. Yes, sir.
And the amount of fill, we've thrown around numbers, but
3 to 4 feet along the site. It slopes from gentle from the front to deeper in the back.
significant in the back.
As it slopes down, yes, sir.
So my concern is not about the product or the fill or the dune or the although I think the walkway should remain in the south, but my issue with the matter is, how did we take a special exception process that, like Commissioner Dan said, ends at the board and come here, and how are we, as a board, saying that this is the same application that was approved previously, and that they were doing a special amendment to that, when it appears to me, when looking at it, it's a completely different proposal than what was approved previously.
Agreed. No, I understand your point, and that was the 3 years of research and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a way to use the rules to get to this point. And, your attorney explained to you that it's certainly permissible. I completely understand your perception, and we have had many conversations in the past because we knew that was going to be a discussion here.
Just a procedural kind of question. So is the developer going to build all these homes, or are you going to contract out to different builders to build these homes?
It will either be the owner itself, or there will be a joint venture type of thing. But it won't be 6 different builders that come in and build that product.
Okay. Donnie?
I'll
Okay.
refrain until we get to after.
Just one more. I mean,
public comment.
obviously, you've put a lot of work into this to get this so far, and I feel terrible that, one, I think that it's gotten this far with all the work that you've done, because there are many places in the process where it could have stopped. We're, due to the size, right, we're basically applying a PUD rezoning criteria, but using special exceptions because it doesn't meet the PUD size requirement. And I can't get past this. And the second part was a point that was made about the comp plan, and I'll read from the attorney's note that properties located between designated scenic roads and wetlands or open water shall be zoned for the lowest intensity allowed for the respective future land use categories. I would say, based on the entitlements, you have 14 units entitled. Let's just say all the other stuff worked out. I think the lowest intensity allowed is the 14 units. And I think going to the 16 violates that portion of the comp plan. Even if you were to agree that this process has validity.
We addressed that with your county attorney after that hearing, and I'd respectfully disagree. It goes to rezonings, and if we're going to have a zoning category, it's been a category of RC for decades, right? So it's consistent with the comp plan is the position that you have to start with. RC is consistent with the comp plan. The zoning designation is therefore consistent with the comprehensive plan. Therefore, anything allowed under the zoning regulation is therefore deemed consistent. The point about 14 or 16, I mean, if I can be candid, is 14 or 16 going to change the complexion of the Barrier Island? Obviously not. But remember also that in RC, if you're worried about lowest density, the density under RC is 7 or 8 units per acre. 8 units per acre, I think is what was in it. So, for comp plan consistency, we deal with the theoretical maximums and whether they're consistent with it. So we wrote a memo. I haven't heard back, and maybe Sean can, or Mr. Moylan can respond to that. But clearly, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan, we did an analysis of it, and so this is lower than what is permitted under the RC zoning district, and therefore RC is deemed to be consistent with your comprehensive plan. A point of view, 5 lawyers, 6 opinions.
But
right?
currently, you only would be allowed single family in there.
Currently, we would be allowed 14 to 7.
Right, you've got entitlements for 14.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If it was a vacant parcel that you wanted nowadays, you wouldn't be able to get those 14 units.
I doubt you'd probably be able to get more than 6 or 7, probably with the dimensional requirements. Now that the RC, the multifamily was removed from RC in 2010 or 12, something like that. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be available to answer any questions into your timing mechanism during the public comment. We'll talk. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else? If not, I'm going to open it up.
We're going to have public comment, right?
Yes, I'm going to do that next. All right, we'll open up to public comment. Anybody in the public wish to comment on item 9A? If so, please come to the podium. Identify yourself and make your comments to me.
My name is Ronnie Wilson, and until January, I was the president of Matanzas Shores Owners Association. And our executive committee could not be here tonight, so I got to be the stuckey. I happened to be the one that worked with the applicant's lawyer to create this wastewater treatment plant involvement. I wanted you to understand why we made that agreement. Number one, we didn't want a sewer system across the street that was a septic system. Number two, we wanted a berm. And that's our biggest concern. We've gone through 5 hurricanes, and we became an island within an island. We couldn't go north because of sand. We couldn't go south because of a foot of water on the highway. That's why we want a berm. We worked diligently with the applicant to create a plan that they would give us a berm to help with that water resistance as it comes over the coast. The one thing I have not seen in any of the documentation is the height or the crest size of that berm. We have plans here that they provided us before we would negotiate with them that says that the berm would be 14 feet high and the crest would be 20 feet wide. We would like to ask that you include that in your requirements of them. I don't think they're trying to pull anything over our eyes. But one of the things I learned as a lawyer is when it's in writing, it's a lot easier to enforce. So we're asking you to join us by requiring a 14-foot level and a 20-foot wide crest. I'm going to provide you, for the record, a copy of the plans for the berm that they provided us.
If you could give a copy to the clerk.
Mr. Chair, just point of clarification, berm equals dune in this.
That's dune,
right?
yeah.
Okay. I was just a little, I was thinking
Yeah, and
going the other direction.
We have to look at that because
Yeah.
we're on this initial load of, FEMA has said 6 cubic yards of sand per
Yeah.
foot of beach, and so that's kind of what we're required to do right now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we can't make it bigger.
Just caught me off guard when I mean, I knew we were talking about dune, but when he said berm, I was thinking we were talking about going east to west.
Yeah,
It didn't
no.
make sense to me, so
No.
thank you.
Oh, it's a dune. It's a dune. Okay. Next speaker.
Hello, my name's Kenneth Anderson. I live at 88 Las Casitas Boulevard, which is directly across the street in the KB home development. And I went through the couple storms last year, and it's imperative we get that berm there. I had about 1.5 foot of water in the preserve right behind my backyard, and it was probably a scary, pretty situation. It's a brand-new house, put my life savings in there. I retired down in Florida, and this Flagler County has got to get involved with this because there's substantial development in there, a lot of expense, and people's dreams are there. So you please take a look at that. It's really serious. And state of Florida finally starting to put some dunes in the park. They're rebuilding that. They should have done it a lot sooner before. And I really hope you guys really take a really serious look at that situation. Thank you.
Next speaker. Sir.
Evening. My name is John Titus Steele. My education is in environmental analysis and regional planning. Graduate work at the University of Michigan, the natural resources. So I know what I'm talking about. First of all, I disagree that I don't think it's ugly there. It's a natural coastal environment, which is not ugly. And I think that the Washington Oaks would not think that it's ugly. I want to talk to you about moving the easement from the south to the north. Every morning, I'm in one of 4 houses, which is closest proximity to that. So every morning I go out and run and I cross that street. It takes me 16 seconds to cross that street, and I'm in good health. It takes somebody 21 seconds if you're slightly disabled, a toddler 24 seconds. A toddler moves at 2.9 feet per second. A car comes down that road at 60 miles an hour, which is 80 feet. So in other words, you have to have clear vision of 1,673 feet before you step onto the side of that road. Now think about it. If you move that from the south to the north, you're turning a corner, you're going from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. You're also talking about adding another division there. The numbers you saw in the draft of what the accidents were date back to prior to La Casitas, as well as everything else that's been built along there. Think clearly and hardly about if you had a toddler in tow and you're going to cross there, going from 2 lanes now up to where it is on the north end at 4 lanes. It's very dangerous. I would not want that on my conscience if that were to happen, to move from the south to the north. There are many other things that I can't understand how a project can work and have 19 exceptions to a project that should have been good in the beginning. I don't understand how that works. The third thing is the berm is important. We do flood. I'm one of the highest elevations at the ground level of my house at 12 feet. Other members are here also with their ground level slightly higher. It does flood, it does come through there. We saw it come over. We evacuated, we started to go north, we had to go to the south. So obviously I agree 100% that something has to be done. But I think you really need to think about leaving it up to somebody else's obligation, somebody else's conscience, some other division, whether it's the Department of Transportation or the Department of Environmental Quality, to make those decisions right. I'm not sure that I'd want that handed off to somebody else. The last thing, there is a misconception that the water would go into the dry pond, it would go out to the ocean. That's wrong. If you look at the charts, it actually goes from the east to the west. Houses are on the west side. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Next speaker.
We get the plot time, the plot schedule. Okay, thank you. Okay. Let me get my glasses here. I'm Charles Beeman. I live at 6525 Old A1A across the street from this campground and project of special exemptions. And we're not too thrilled with it. Project of special exemptions for roadway setback from A1A. A1A is a historic highway. Setback's not good. With all the DOT talk that we've had, driveways, they're a special exception because there's not enough space between the house and the road or the curb. Most cars, my truck wouldn't fit in there. My truck is 24 feet long. These are only around 20, what they had in the design before. The cul-de-sac size, too small, special exemption. Fire and ambulance, they've got a road out because they can't turn around in there. And they're not even probably going to get through there with all the cars and everything else that are going to be parked on the edges of the road because there isn't enough room to park in the driveway. The other thing is the coastal setback line, the government marker, has come up missing in the last month. It was out on the beach. It's been out there for many, many years, probably 50, 60, 80 years, the government marker. Well, it was there December 6, 22, it was there. I have pictures of it. It's missing, and the other coastal setback line is missing. I found it in the rocks. It was thrown in the rocks about 3 weeks ago. I put it up on the board on the side dune. Okay, the county just removed one house to the north where the tides were going through. A high tide would go through the house and the northeasters would go through. Where they've got these houses plotted in here now, there's no, I don't see the construction control line anymore. That's probably why that's missing. Half of these houses are in high tide. These houses on the front, coastal, they're at the high tide mark, right in the middle of them now. With the northeaster this weekend, these houses are in the water. How are you going to set a dune to block the water? There's no space. This space that he's got out here in the east part of these houses that's marked with the big X or whatever, that's water. That's low tide. That's low tide where the 8 and 9 are here, these lines, that's, the tide is up there. High tide is going to wash this thing out. And then that's part of it. I would like a couple more minutes to ask about this 14-unit townhouse. I would like to know who made the application, how was the change approved, and was there community involvement?
Sir, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, I hope you cancel out this thing and file it in 13, please.
Next speaker.
Good evening. I'm Chris Koch. My wife is Kathleen. Back there, we live directly across the street. We bought that property in 2003. We lived up the street, had a home on the beach, which we sold. Now we live down there on this 6-acre plus parcel, which is almost twice the size of the applicant's lot across the street. I'm the person that brought suit against the developer in 2008. Okay, part of that settlement agreement, we were granted a right-of-way, their 15-foot right-of-way on the south side of the property to gain access to the ocean. Okay, for the past 15 years, my wife and I are the only people that are allowed by law, a lot of people do it, but allowed by law to actually go on that property and access the beach. Now, they want to open up the right-of-way that was granted to us. They want to open it up to everybody. Okay, and it's their right to do so. I know it's their legal right to do so. But this creates a tremendous problem for us. The attorney would lead you to believe that people will walk there or bicycle there to go to the beach. Well, let me tell you, they're not. They're going to drive there, as they have in the past years. There are cars parked all over the place. Where are they parked? They're parked on our front lawn. They're right parked in front of our house. It's the only place for them to park if they open up this easement. And it's going to depreciate my property. It's going to drive the property value down. We're supposed to be on it's going to be an eyesore on a scenic highway. And another thing that I want to mention is I would like to have 2 of my lots on my 6 acres. I would like to subdivide them and go to 3 lots. But the county told me my lots are too small because they're just a little over a half an acre apiece. Now, these lots across the street that you're approving, I can take 25 of those 2,800 square foot houses, the lots, and put them inside. I'm asking for 3. I could take 25 of theirs and put them in my property and not go over my line. Now, where's the equity in that? You're going to approve something like that and tell me my lots are too small. Well, I don't. It seems to be two sets of rules for people, a set of rules for the developers and a set of rules for Flagler residents, longtime residents like us. And I don't think it's fair. I think you should turn this deal down. And I know they have the right to build the townhouses, and I guess that's what they're going to do, but I'm against it. And I just want to go on record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koch. Next speaker.
Good evening, Attorney Dennis Baer. I'm here on behalf of 2 clients tonight. My first is Mr. and Mrs. Koch, who are here, you just heard from, and the second is the Hammock Community Association, whom I addressed on their behalf last time. I promise no Darth Vader jokes tonight, no Star Wars jokes, and I'll try to stay within 3 minutes, but I may need a little bit more because I do have 2 clients. First, we've spoken with Mr. Chimeno several times. We've talked to county staff several times since the last meeting. And first, on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Koch, I don't know, can we put up that first aerial that shows the overlay of the property? And what I'd like to discuss is keeping the easement on the south side. We agree it's a non-exclusive easement, but if you keep it on the one that's the pictorial aerial where you can see A1A, I think it was the first one, the first slide. So if you see on the south side of the property, it lines up with old A1A, and it's also closer to the ingress and egress point coming in and out of the proposed development. That makes sense to have it there for the walkway. It's safer. Also, I was out there yesterday watching the traffic patterns, and if you get to the north side of the property, that's where the cars start accelerating northbound. If you put the walkway on the north side, people coming out and going north from the development are going to be looking to the left to see cars coming. They're not going to be looking to the right for pedestrians. I just don't think that the traffic safety analysis really takes that into consideration. So we would suggest that it stay on the south side as much as possible. I think that's just a common sense location, and I don't think it makes a big difference for the Army Corps of Engineers on the beach access issue. The second issue is coming back to our PUD light argument. As I said last time, I don't know how you go special exception from single family to allow multifamily and then special exception back to single family. And they don't meet the requirements of either of the zoning R3 or RC on some of the particular issues that they have to meet. And if you look at the report or the analysis done by the county attorney's office, with all due respect, I've talked to Sean about this, as well as Mr. Hadid. My concern is we can overlook some of the zoning requirements if somebody agrees to rebuild their dunes, or we can overlook some of the zoning requirements if somebody hooks up to central sewer. And believe me, we've been pushing, Mr. Hadid and I, to get central sewer up in the Hammock area since the 1980s, so I'm all for it, but it's not an excuse to overlook your actual zoning requirements. On the issue of the dune restoration, I represent homeowners in Volusia County, Flagler County. We've got a group of homeowners, $200,000 per home to deal with the storm ravages. So Mr. Chimento's argument that this is going to cost more, so give me more, belies the fact of coastal construction now in the state of Florida after the storms. It's more expensive to build on the ocean these days. We do need the dunes, and we need a solution, but that shouldn't be a justification for overlooking the zoning requirements. So on behalf of the Hammock Civic Association, we have provided you at last month's hearing the report that was done by Thad Crow, who used to be a planner here, used to sit on the planning board. His density calculations, again, I've got two clients, if I could have just a little addition.
Give me 1 more minute, please, on the timer.
Mr. Crow's analysis is that the 2,800-foot lots represents an urban density of almost 16 units per acre. That's greater than what's allowed in your current RC for single-family residential. And he goes on to repeat the development would not be mixed or low intensity, also stated in the purpose and intent, but in fact achieves an urban density of almost 16 units per acre. On behalf of the Hammock Civic Association, or Community Association, excuse me, they would agree to 12 single family. If somebody wants to know what their end game is, 12 single family they could live with on that property. 16 is too great. It increases the amount of cover to prevent stormwater runoff. It allows for larger lot sizes that at least are marginally more consistent with what the underlying zoning exists on the property. So that would be their recommendation. And I agree with the gentleman that spoke here from the Matanza Shores Owners Association. The language about the dunes is really vague, best interest or whatever they can accomplish. We need more specifics on that issue because, as we all know, future commissions may look at things differently. I appreciate the extra time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Lynn Bravo Rosewater. I live at 200 Ocean Crest Drive. I feel like what got presented to you tonight, except for the fact that they made one house smaller, is no different than what they presented to you a month ago, where you put it off and you voted no on it. And the thing that is, to me, still upsetting, that they have property that is over the coastal construction zone, okay? They are closer to the water. We know that the hurricanes here are gonna only get stronger. So if we have 8 feet of water, that's a really good chance that we will have 8 feet of water. These houses are too close to the water. They are going to flood on the people beneath them, and that's one thing that I think zoning and planning has not done a good job on. If you build over somebody, you gotta have a way that that water doesn't come down and flood them. And just like the man said from Michigan, the educated from Michigan, that's not gonna happen. They're gonna flood. So this is the same proposal, a little smaller house on 16th. It's not a good proposal. It does not meet zoning requirements. It does not meet the overlay that sits on top of how we look at our programs, and I think you should vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Seeing no one else approach, I'll close community comment and bring it back to the board. Adam, I'd like to get into our zoning requirement on specifically the statute that says for lands between the scenic highway and the ocean. Because if I read the legal opinion, they meet the lowest quality or lowest number of houses. That's the way I read it. Is that, can we talk about that? What's the?
And I think that's an appropriate interpretation, is that the language that's there is a comp plan policy restricting, and I believe guiding rezonings to that lowest intensity zoning category that's included in the plan itself. And so if you'll remember, maybe we'll get more specific as we get into the comp plan update, but for every land use category in the comprehensive plan, you have a correlation for a zoning district. And so that with the mixed use low, the related lowest intensity zoning is the RC.
And that's what it is.
That's what it is. And so then, and you do have within that table, for full disclosure, comma, PUD. Here again, PUD not being an option. We don't have the 5 acres here, so that's not, but I want to make sure I'm saying on the record that your 2 permissible zoning categories in the mixed use low future land use are the RC, residential limited commercial, first permitted use, and this is in the language both before removing the multifamily special exception and since. Truly, the only permitted use that you have in residential limited commercial, at least the most obvious one, is a single-family dwelling. And so the misnomer that we spend a lot of our time talking about, the residential/limited commercial, that limited commercial aspect comes through a special exception. But back to your question, the lowest intensity is the RC zoning within the mixed-use low future land use category.
And do these 16 homes fall within that requirement?
That's the rub. And so the issue and the reason why I believe that it's appropriate to have you as the board grappling over this is because of the nature of the settlement agreement. The 19 conditions that we had talked about, where it had went through those iterations. You know, the obvious thing, and when you ask me, which you hadn't, how come you're hearing this, is because this is unique. We even had one of the speakers that talked about it and said, by the way, I'm the one who sued. So this was the output of a lawsuit. This is the result of a settlement agreement. This is, by its very definition, unique. And so this is something that, to me, didn't fall within the finite parameters of the zoning as a special exception, a yes, no, a 9 criteria that you're meeting through a site plan. You had a long and substantial history with this to get to this point. You even had the speaker that said, by the way, I'm the reason, part of the reason for that, that got you there. And we had 19 criteria. That's not 9 special exception conditions. That's 19 criteria over, 3 different years, 3 different processes that you had. That, to me, said that this isn't something I want to end at planning board. I want to have it come to the board. I'm not trying to defend it. I think that's what the county attorney's memo had put together for you that said, yes, we think this is an appropriate path. If you choose to opt and say you disagree with that, then that's certainly your prerogative. And I think that's something that you can do.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Sullivan?
I understand all that side of it. But what about this question? Just to answer this question. If we had no history on this piece of property at all, we're just starting from scratch, and they came in with this plan, would we approve it?
It is not consistent with the zoning. And so today's answer, today's RC, and what Commissioner Dance Vice Chair Dance was saying was that, this is not your minimum dimensional requirements.
It's a simple answer,
it doesn't
no.
match.
The
No.
answer is no. Okay.
No.
I mean, that's a very good comment, but it's complicated by the fact
I know
that
it
it
is.
was approved.
But
for
it isn't clear,
14.
it is not clear from our legal office that there's a clear-cut right decision here.
No, they told us go either way. Whichever way you go, you're going to get sued, so.
Well, remember too, staff, right? So put the other hat on, and not to put, I think one of the reasons it got this far is because of some of the benefits that the applicant was giving. And, I'm sure staff was weighing the benefits of those. And based on what Adams is saying, he's said it really should be up to the commission and shouldn't just be squashed. Whether I agree with it or not, I'm just saying, you know, staff is looking at a big picture. I just, and that's kind of what weighs on my mind as well, is if it doesn't go through, we're left with a vacant lot that is going to be protected by the emergency dune, and that's it.
That's it, 6 cubic yards of sand.
So, you know, but they are vested for 14 units and can build a product with 14 units. I mean, that can't be discounted as well. I mean, it's ready to go, and construction plans can be submitted on, and I think there's probably, if a modification of multifamily was submitted to where it was maybe attached duplexes or 3-unit buildings instead of a big one, that would be something that probably staff could work with in the office, or would you have to bring that back to planning board?
If you're asking me if duplexes would be allowed in the RC zoning, the answer would be no.
Okay.
That is not an appropriate use. We do have a duplex
So
zoning
you'd have to
category.
go to 3 units?
RC is not duplexes. You would have to go 3 or more.
Okay. So so even if it's 3, but is that handled by staff, or would that go to planning?
It could be handled by staff through a,
As long as all the other conditions. So
Sure.
there's still some
The 19
flexibility
conditions,
within
yes, sir.
that 14 units.
You have something else?
No.
Oh.
No, sorry. Are you waiting on me?
I was waiting on you.
I will yield the floor. Sorry.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. O'Brien.
Are we done with presentations?
I think.
Rebuttal or?
Yeah,
I think Michael would like a rebuttal.
Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, we're working our way through it.
Okay.
Michael?
To address address the comments. I go home at night and talk about my day at work, and I bet you if it happens once a month, it happens twice a month, where my wife reminds me of the KISS theory, right? We all know what that stands for. I understand your concerns. You've verbalized it last meeting in our conversations. We have the opinions of your 2 attorneys and your staff that the process is consistent with the law. I think what Adam had just said to you is indicative of this is the way it's done every time when we do special exceptions. This is no different in a way, because as you noticed in the last special exception, there were 19 conditions in order to grant approval. And so granting conditions as a process of the RC district or the special exception process happens every day. Every time we come here, we have exceptions to the RC. So I don't know how to answer or give you any more information other than the process is consistent with the law as it is. As frustrating or concerning as you said. But from the KISS theory, it's very simple. It's very simple. We have a project that's approved that looks like this, and we have a project that we're asking for that looks like this. And we can rationalize any way we want to how to get there or how to deny it. I think we've spent 4 hours and probably 100 hours of staff time rationalizing one way or the other on a decision. And I just think it is very simple. Which project do you like? And you have the full discretion to approve either or. With the B project, which is here to you tonight, there are a lot of additional exceptions. And if it's not approved, we'll go back to the other one. And that's just where we started from 3 years ago. When we asked and talked about and mentioned it to you, you said, go get sewer. And we spent, as your staff did, amending your ordinances to try to go get sewer, and we've got it. So I really don't have anything else to ask or add, other than if you all have questions of us or the applicant herself. Okay. So we ask for your approval with the conditions and including the sprinklers. So thank you for your time, last meeting and this meeting.
Mr. Chair, just a couple things. I was confused by the discussion from the HOA folks about we were talking about the height of the dune.
Yeah,
Depth?
I would encourage everybody to come to the May 1st meeting because we're going to
Yeah.
drag it all out.
Yeah.
But FEMA's rule is 6 cubic yards of sand for the emergency dune for every foot of beach.
Right.
We're going to do that.
Right.
Regardless of what it all happens
Right.
here. Yeah.
Okay. Just my overall thoughts are, I keep coming back to the issue of competent and substantial evidence, in terms of making a decision. And in wrapping all of these things up, the things that I think are positive is, in terms of me wanting to support the project, is keep thinking about vested rights and private property rights, and they're there for, not this exact project because of the exceptions, but they are there. And I would rather see the single family, although, we could debate about how many units, but rather than that townhouse concept, or townhome concept, no septic, repairing dunes, public access, and I would hope that we can get to the southern access. I think that makes sense from what I heard. Offering the perpetual easement, I'm assuming that's part of this
It is.
deal.
That's part.
Which we just went through discussions with other property owners about that. In terms of the flooding and all the other elevation issues, this has to be permitted by the state agencies too. So, we're not running sideways on that. That's going to happen anyway. And those are the experts in terms of St. John's Water Management or whoever else has to permit this thing. What else? Again, we don't have a clear-cut answer on a memo from our attorneys, but our attorneys are employed to advise us about the pros and cons of issues, and, sometimes things are clear-cut, but it doesn't seem like it is here, so we get elected to lead and make decisions, so I don't run away from that, but in terms, I would be willing to make a motion to support the project, based on all those things I just itemized, so.
Ms. Pennington, do you have anything to
Yeah,
add?
so, I think a previous board and a previous court has already determined what could, this project to begin with. And I think my concern is that we're making a precedent, this currently today would be RC, which is a 9,000 square foot minimum lot area. The project's 2,800 square feet. The minimum lot width today would be 75 feet. This project's 40 feet. The setbacks are vastly different as well. And I'm worried that we're just going to end up setting a precedent for other things to crawl in here for special exceptions that, that completely go against our comp plan. And I don't know if that's what we necessarily, I don't understand what the real harm is in what he was already approved for. We didn't make that particular decision. And, I could appreciate the dune and the hookup, and I think the dune, obviously, I think it's necessary for housing to be there, but I'm worried about the overall precedent of just completely overriding the RC and using the special exception process.
Mr. Dance?
You have a motion?
No, we do not. He said he's willing to make one.
I thought he made, I'm sorry.
If I get the floor again, I will make the motion, but yes, I didn't
He didn't
officially
make
make
the
a motion. Yes, sir.
Understood,
Yeah.
okay. I guess going back to comments, so I'm disappointed in that we're just throwing around units now without any backup or reference. So in one instance now, it's almost like 16's thrown out here and 12 over here. It's either what's allowed by the code or what's not. It's not what's we agree to, or this isn't really negotiable. This is what the land development code describes. A PUD is negotiable. but this is, I mean, I have to fall back on my basic education and experience, and it's what the code, if the code isn't what we want, we're going to have the opportunity to look at it with the rewrite. But currently, it's not, it's not what units do we throw out there and see what sticks. That's all. I mean, it's all the good positive points are negated by trying to just throw out densities on this thing. It's what's allowed based on what the minimum requirements are. Do you have anything, Dave?
No, I just think that it's our decision. And I think we do need to be careful about not conforming to the LDC. If it does set a precedent going the wrong way. It's like if you entice us enough, we'll give up on what the rules are. And it's a hard one. It's a hard one because we want to support private property and we want to have people live in nice homes and all that kind of thing. But right now, I think we're still at a point where it's not clear that we've got a project that I can support.
Well, let me fall back on the lawyer once again. As I read your memo, Sean, it made the case in both instances that they were following the rules. On the one case where you would approve the 16, if I read your memo right, that fell within the requirement of that we have between scenic road and the water. It fell within the lowest number of homes.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And, a number of you commissioners have commented tonight on the memo that Mr. Hadid and I wrote. And Commissioner O'Brien, I appreciate your comment. I hope you can understand that we were trying to stay in our lane. We are not the decision maker.
Right.
And we really do try not to put you in the difficult spot, but sometimes that's just how it is. Specifically as to the comp plan consistency that you're referring to, the comp plan says that properties between designated scenic highways and open water have to be zoned for the lowest intensity that's allowed for the particular land use. And unfortunately, that's just not a straightforward answer. And it actually, our memo was not saying, yes, this meets that criteria, or no, it doesn't. What we were saying is it kind of depends on how you look at it. Because if you look at, just take, for example, minimum lot widths, if you were looking at it like that, you could say, well, this is too intense. It doesn't meet the comp plan requirement. On the other hand, a lot of times when you're looking at the outer limits of intensity of development, you look at just in a theoretical sense, what's the most you could fit on there? And under that calculation, they would be under, the RC zoning has 9,000 square foot minimum lots. And in the theoretical sense of dividing that into their property, if I remember the calculation, let's see, I have it here. They're at 4.12 units per acre. Their proposed project, 4.12 units per acre. That's less than the 4.84 that is the theoretical maximum if you were to put 9,000 square foot lots. Now, that doesn't account for roadways and infrastructure, but a lot of times when you're looking at just outer intensities, you don't account for that. So basically what I'm saying is a lot of this is a matter of perspective and where your inclinations are. And these aren't always just black and white answers, unfortunately.
That was what I got from your memo either. Yeah, thank you. So. Anything else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to offer a motion to approve application 3339 with the special exception for, as delineated here in the agenda item.
Hearing no second, the motion fails. Anything else, commissioners, we need to deal with?
Yes, we do need to either approve this, deny this, or to table this, but we can't just move on without one of those. And if the board's inclination is to table again or to deny, we would ask for some findings on the record. I think you've had enough discussion. You can articulate some of the reasons.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I guess we could go back and second the motion and then vote. Second the motion that was provided, restate it, and see if there'll be a second, given what our lawyer has just told us. That way you would get a decision one way or the other.
Mr. O'Brien?
Well, you could also make it a new motion to deny.
I'll make a motion to deny application 3339, request to amend special exception for 14 townhouses to allow 16 single-family. I don't read the rest of it.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to deny application 3339, request to amend special exception for 14 townhouses to 16 single-family detached lots in RC development. I'll open it up to public comment. Anybody in the public wish to comment on the motion? Seeing no one step forward, we'll close it and bring it back to the board. All in favor of the motion to deny 3339, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. County Administrator reports.
Thank you. Real quick, I just wanted to bring to your attention that at your next board meeting, we've got something for your consideration with regard to the FDOT.
Please hold it down. Please hold it down.
With regard to the 5-year FDOT work plan and alternative schedule. Typically, we bring that back before you. Last year, I know that there was some conversation about wanting to give some input to staff in that, so I was going to reach out to you and see if you wanted to provide input based on what we had gathered, if you'd like to meet one-on-one or just prior to us bringing that forward. So just wanted to let you know that that's scheduled for your next meeting. So we'll try to reach out to you ahead of that to let you know. Other than that, I have nothing else to add.
Sure, thank you. County Attorney.
No report.
We'll open up community outreach. This 30-minute time period has been allocated for public comment on items not of the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct their comments to me. The dais is now open. Seeing nobody approach, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, any reports or comments? Mr. Sullivan.
None?
Mr. Dance.
Sure. Just wanted to, the last meeting of the month, recognize that this is Autism Awareness Month. Couple stats, there are 5.4 million adults in the United States with autism. 1 in every 44 children is diagnosed with autism. I know in my school board days, you know, we did a lot of activities for the whole month and in recognizing autism awareness, and just wanted to bring that forward for our meeting and the public.
Is that this month, Andy?
Yes.
This month?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
And it's not Skin Cancer Awareness Month, but I'm showing the signs of skin cancer tonight. So I'll use my couple of minutes to make everybody, I'm sure you're aware you need to properly use SPF, the highest you can comfortably use to protect yourself so that you don't end up with all these scar marks I have on me. So I wasn't a very good youth in following my, but that's all. Thank you.
Ms. Pennington.
Yeah, 4-H and Future Farmers is alive and well in
Yeah.
District 4. I couldn't even get into the auction. It was so crowded. And a single chicken went for $500. So it's amazing. So we're doing great out there and really proud of them.
Yeah, I want to commend you too, on you're doing a good job out there talking to the people, I think so. I think you're doing a great job. Mr. O'Brien? And I have nothing. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you.